And what is more enjoyable, people, seeing Nick go apeshit on the sidelines yelling at some kid after he had been on, any number of interviews where he tries to act like a human being and says, well, it's all about the kicks. And then he Woody Hayes this guy. I mean, it was insane. I mean, he stopped just short of Bobby Knight again and strangling him, right there on the sidelines in the middle of a game. All that being said, now, people always made this equation, right, that penalties fall upon the responsibility of coaches. That it's not players that commit penalties, but if you have an inordinate number of penalties, an absurd number of penalties in a game, that it falls on the idea that maybe you're not coaching well. So then how would you ever justify Nick Saban's team getting penalized 17 times in a game against Tennessee? 17 times.
That's crazy.
Nick, what's going on there? Where's the discipline, Nicky boy?
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
We love it in sports, don't we? Dousing gasoline on a fire. I mean, just picking at the scab, the wound, pouring any kind of ingredient on there that can exacerbate the situation. Nick Saban loses a game, and of course, what are we looking at? The total lack of discipline and complete coaching ineptitude of the Alabama staff there, with 18 guys that all coached in the pros. And it had to be their fault that the Alabama Crimson Tide was assessed 17 penalties in that ball game that they lost to Tennessee. And all that being said, I mean, hasn't Nick had the top recruiting class, either one or two there with Jimbo or somebody? It's always one or two, Alabama, and usually number one for like the last 11 years.
Yeah.
So you
Georgia,
figure
Clemson, FSU, Ohio State. Yeah, he's always in the top three.
So how does he not have the ability to just overcome these 17 penalties and lay it on the Tennessee Volunteers who they've been sort of down as a program for a long period of time, ever since Charles Davis played there. Hell, I don't even know if they would have won if Ernie Davis played there over the last several years. Peyton Manning, I guess, was the last time.
Late 90s, early 2000s is when they were last relevant. Yes.
Well, and you thought Tennessee was some sort of dynasty, but that hasn't happened for a while. But thank you, Tennessee, for beating Alabama and knocking them down to number 6. Still remains to be seen, and we'll discuss this later on with the great Tony Segreto when he joins us for All School. And if anybody would know the inner workings and the machinations that it takes, the mathematical permutations to eliminate 2 teams to make way for Alabama into the Final Four. Now, that might be the biggest reason. Was Nick the biggest proponent, just in case he had like a down year, of expanding the playoffs to 12 teams? I would imagine his vote was very prominent there. No, he would only like to see one team announced in the playoffs. He would just like to be automatically crowned national champion every year because routinely Alabama's number 1. Not the case this year. Good morning, everybody. Good to be with you on this fine Wednesday. Lubie, how are you? How's your internet mess?
I guess it's okay now. I don't know what's going on. It's a little annoying, but we're here. Otherwise, everything's going well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing just fine. I didn't realize this box that I had stacked up here was in the background of our shot, covering one of my boxing posters. I'll have to correct that because I'm always getting on you about what, as my friend Southern Brian said, why does it look like Lubie is broadcasting from his dorm room at FSU? But you're going to change that. You just froze up there, Lubie. What's going on with that? I thought they came out yesterday, the Xfinity people, or whoever it is that has your internet. Are you okay? Uh-oh. That's not a good sign. We got a frozen Lubie. And we went through this yesterday. And today's too good of a day to incur these kind of problems. It would really be a disaster if we had internet problems here and failed to pull off the quality broadcast that you people have come to expect here on South Florida Live. I mean, this is something that is starting to become a little bit on the disturbing side. There you are. Well, you got 2 Lubies now. And now we got another Lubie, and he's moving around. That's good. You're kind of like that thing in a video game where you just keep moving around in a little box. Are you okay? You going to freeze up on us? What's going on?
I don't know. This whole moving process is going to be so fun. You seem to do it pretty seamless. I'm jealous of you. I don't know what they're going to happen because the thing is I can go do it at my house, but I won't have that house as soon as Monday. So
all right.
I sort of have to have somewhere to do it. And
you might have to run back there before 8 o'clock here so we can get Ed Garcia, the Texas Roadhouse people, Catholic Health Services.
Until 7:30, and if by 7:30 this is still a problem, then yes, I'll be going home so we can do a full Tony Segreto hour, and then I'll have to figure out what the fuck we're doing for next week.
Well, there's too much going on here, right? And I want to get into it. I'm going to start with the Yankee
Yes.
game, and I came to this conclusion reading an article today about Meghan Markle and how she's now complaining about being objectified as a bimbo when she got. I mean, when you get your start in this business, it doesn't matter what kind of humble beginnings it is. Now, in Meghan Markle's case, she was one of the girls with the suitcase on Deal or No Deal. Remember that show?
Okay.
Where there were like 25 gorgeous babes holding suitcases, and the person had to pick which one they wanted. And you usually went by the one that you were most attracted to, did you not? I mean, if you were playing the game along at home, you were like, man, look at that hot fucking blonde. And I'm hoping she's carrying $1 million. And of course, she never had it. It was always the one that maybe was like ranked anywhere between 20 and 25 on who was it? Howie Mandel was
Oh, man.
hosting that show.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. He's carved out a tremendous, career as a judge, host, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. I mean, it was, a funny stand-up comic. I don't know that he was at the very top. I guess at one time he was considered one of the top guys in the business. But man, I don't know that anybody has made a better career out of that while flying relatively under the radar, right? Because you don't think of like Howie Mandel, right? You think of like Simon Cowell in that capacity. Maybe a couple of Heidi Klum, comes across there as being a major judge. Blake Shelton, big time judge on The Voice. He's leaving the show, and believe me, they're a little nervous about that because he was kind of carrying that show. You know that nobody's ever made it from that show to any level of stardom. All the different people. You would figure American Idol is, pulled
Got a
off
bunch.
any number of
Yeah.
people that have made it to, very, very high places in the music business, deserved or not, but mostly deserved, including, country stars and all kinds of different people have made it big off of that. Nothing off The Voice,
That's crazy.
which was hosted. Who's the guy that was the host of the show? Not the judges, but
the main guy.
yeah. I mean, he's such a stiff. I don't know. This guy, and he had a talk show, a late night talk show for a while. He started out on MTV, and supposedly has like, his claim to fame is
Carson Daly. Carson Daly.
Carson Daly, man. I mean, the most overrated talent on TV, you would have to say, unless you're listening to people talking about Bob Costas and the way that he handled these Yankee games. I paid particular attention to Costas yesterday because of all the complaints, and when you're getting called out by Mike Francesa as being lousy at your job in the announcing field, then it's worthy of somebody saying, okay, let me check this out for myself. Because I'm a Costas fan. I believe he's one of the finest announcers ever. I mean, as versatile as they come. His big sport was baseball. I mean, I know he did football, he did baskets, he did
I loved him in
everything.
basketball and football. That's what's funny. Baseball was his first love, but I loved when he used to do the NBA games. And then the football, he used to do football. He was great at football.
Costas is excellent. I mean, the way he handled those Olympic games, I mean, that can't be an easy thing to. And he's kind of like our friend Eddie Berliner, who, in his entire career on a lower level, there, Eddie B. I mean, I think he would accept that. I mean, not many are up there in the platitude that Bob Costas is. I mean, Costas is up there with anybody. Vince Scully, any of the great announcers of all time. You would have to say that Costas would be included. Tony Segreto, that Costas would be included on that list.
Yep.
And, the fact that he was at Syracuse, I think he was a class behind me at Syracuse. He certainly propelled himself far ahead of me by the time he got out of there because he was calling ABA professional basketball games right out of school. As I recall, Costas might have even had some professional experience while he was at Syracuse University because there were a couple of guys that I knew that, were around like the broadcasting. I was on the periphery there of the broadcasting stuff, but I never really got involved in it. But did go to, I matriculated a couple of classes there at the Newhouse School of Communications. I don't think they would let me in the building there at Newhouse, but I had a lot of great people there. I mean, a lot of guys that went on to success from that period of time that I was at school. And of course, if you look on the wall of fame there of broadcasters at Syracuse University, I mean, it starts at the very top with the one and only Rod Serling. And then among sportscasters, I mean, you had many of the giants of the industry, including Dick Stockton, of course, who was married to Leslie Visser for a long time, and many others that went there. Costas, of course, being one of the main guys. Craig Minervini, our own Craig Minervini, right here in town, was a Syracuse guy. So many people went there, and Costas was like the cream of the crop. And a lot of those guys actually did like professional games because there were like minor league hockey teams and baseball teams and other jobs in the area. And these guys were actually doing professional broadcasting back then. Costas called a lot of the games on WAER, which was the Syracuse University radio station. And I thought, wow, this guy's great, even back then. It was no surprise to see that he got a job right away out of school at a relatively high level, although I'm not sure what the ABA level was at that point, but still pro basketball, and they had good players in the league. They eventually convinced the NBA to, take on some of their teams and force some kind of merger. And yeah, he was great. And the first time I saw him on a national game, I was living in Los Angeles. I was like, "Holy shit! Can you believe this? Bob Costas is calling the game of the week on NBC." And he sounded terrific. So, even though a lot of people find him smarmy, there's a resentment about the way that he, sort of opined his way through the '97 World Series, where, he had that George Will baseball purist thing where, he didn't like the wild card. And then on top of that, he hated the concept of buying a roster. I mean, remember the Marlins payroll, I think, was $50 million back
Yeah,
then.
it wasn't even that high.
Wouldn't even buy you a shortstop today.
It was like double.
And so, and he complained about it the whole time. I mean, he let everybody know that he was not a fan of the Marlins. I don't know if he had some kind of affinity for the Cleveland, at the time, Indians, who were playing him in the World Series, but it did seem like he was heavily biased against the Marlins. Maybe he didn't like their players. I don't know what it was. And, there was a great deal of resentment, Costas resentment here in South Florida, which is unfortunate because his mother lives here in South Florida, or did. I don't know if she's still around. God bless her if she is. And, every now and then, you would hear like, yeah, Costas' mother was listening to you. She doesn't like the fact that you're ripping the kid. I don't know if she ever called a talk show. Yeah, okay, let's go to Mrs. Costas on line 3. Mrs. Costas, how are you? You know what? You can't keep talking about my son like that. No, it wasn't quite a situation like that at all. So I'm listening yesterday, and there was a lot of this. I mean, people were saying that he never stopped, Lubie. I mean, and Ron Darling was the color analyst, and it was almost like Penn and Teller were doing a game where one guy spoke and the other guy never said a word, just
Oh,
make a
really?
couple of gestures here. Dominated, I guess, the first couple of games. Now, I wasn't paying as close attention then because, I mean, I hear Costas doing a game. He has a great voice, very soothing voice, and seems to be an authoritative one. It sounds like he knows what he's talking about. But people were saying that he was all over the place. And, a pitch would be thrown, and then all of a sudden he'd make an allusion. Well, when the Gas House Gang took on the St. Louis Browns in 1926, that was a similar situation where a guy stole second. And everybody's like, who gives a fuck? We want to know what's going on now. Like, what are you doing, Bobby? We know you know baseball. We know. I mean, we don't need you reading us a baseball history book. Now, some of that infused in a ball game, I think is fine because a lot of play-by-play guys don't say anything. They have nothing to say.
When I saw someone quoted Francesa saying something, and they laughed
Francesa.
at it. I retweeted and I was like, he must have loved Vin Scully. That's all Scully did.
Scully was brilliant, though, in the way that he did it. I guess everybody felt that Costas was forcing it and that maybe he'd been out of the game too long. But he's been calling baseball. So, yes. I was reading an article today by the media critic there. He usually does a pretty decent job in the New York Post. At least I can go along with a lot of his opinion. He seems to be very favorable. He's not like Phil Mushnick, where he'll just go outright, out of his way to slam a guy if he can find a reason. He seems very favorable to the people in the media, I guess, like you would expect. He deals with these people. He doesn't necessarily want to be taking constant pot shots. But even he was sort of critical of Costas, soft-soaped it a little bit, said that he rebounded nicely in this Game 5, which I paid a lot of attention to, especially in the early going, to see if what everybody was talking about with Costas had some relevance to me. And I could see where they were upset, because if that was the toned-down version, then it must have been really just absolutely maniacal what he was doing to Ron Darling and the audience in the first couple of games of the series. Now he's going to be OOP, as they say in dog racing, out of picture, because he's going to end up doing the studio hosting for the Yankees series against the Astros. Many people thought, too, that he was totally biased against the Yankees, which is kind of shocking because he is at Mickey Mantle's funeral, he was the keynote speaker, and he still carries what must be like a $12 million baseball card in his wallet. I mean, if I'm a pickpocket in New York and I see Costas around Central Park where he has like a $10 million pad, It might be 20 now. I'm picking his pocket. No, just to get the Mickey Mantle card. I don't care if he has no cash. I don't want, I'll give him back his credit cards. That card has to be worth a fortune. No,
Yeah.
a mint condition Mickey Mantle card that Costas has carried. Supposedly, I mean, that's how the legend goes, and I believe it to be true, in his wallet, since he was born. So, I don't know that he would be biased against the Yankees. It did seem like in the ninth inning, he was trying to find a way to bring Cleveland back into the series.
Well, that's what they all do. You know that.
Yeah.
Everyone swears the national media is against the Dolphins. I mean, it feels like they are, but I don't know if they are when you watch these games.
Unfortunately for us, here in South Florida, and the people that are diehard Dolphin fans, they have not been all that relevant since 1999 when Marino retired. That's 22 years.
True.
That's a long time. So the national media is probably, almost completely turned over from, the old guys that were, going, the grizzled old veteran press guys that were writing about NFL football back before 2000. I mean, it's a lot of young kids now and bloggers and things like that. The Dolphins just haven't been relevant. So I don't know that there's any great national media bias against the Dolphins. They really haven't had much to talk about, except a variety of goofy controversies that they've been involved in with various forms of ownership, i.e. Stephen Ross and his contingent of people. Was Ross now, he's back, so was he allowed to attend the owners' meetings? Because that got very contentious. Well, we'll get into that a bit later on.
Jerry Jones stuff.
Jerry Jones is telling Kraft not to fuck with him.
That's crazy.
Jim Irsay is saying we have to get rid of Dan Snyder.
Yeah.
Jim Irsay is now a spokesman. Did you see Goodell? I don't know nothing about nothing. He went Pentangeli at the press conference.
Jones is like, well, I think we need to figure out why we're paying this guy this much.
Yeah. And Goodell's up there. He doesn't even address that. He was asked about the Irsay comments. Now here's Irsay, who was caught like with drugs, everything. Strippers, weapons,
guns,
lots of cash in his car. Yeah, while being pulled over for like a DUI or he was drunk out of his mind. Yep. So I mean, he's no saint, right? The old Greg Allman song, "I'm no angel." Yes. He's no angel. This Jim Irsay. And they were involved, the Irsays, of course. This was his father in one of the most despicable fleecing of fans' emotions in the history of the world. Yep. When they backed up in the middle of the night, the Mayflower trucks, and moved the Baltimore Colts to Indianapolis. Come on. Left them high and fucking dry. I mean, you can't abuse fans any worse than that. And he's going to be a spokesman for what's good about the NFL and how they need to get rid of Dan Snyder.
I mean, I don't know if it's a pot calling the kettle black or if it's, wow, Snyder's just that bad that even Irsay's allowed to say.
Imagine that. Irsay is dumping on it. Right? The death row prisoner is yelling at the guy, "You scumbag," as he's been walked to the chair. It's the same thing. I started talking about this whole Meghan Markle thing. And the reason I brought that up is because she's complaining now about being objectified as a bimbo by being on this show, which probably was paying her a very handsome sum. But whatever the lowest union amount of money that they can pay somebody to appear on TV, she got in the union. She was an aspiring actress. Got the exposure. She did end up getting an acting career going at some reasonable level of success. And all she does is complain, right? She's complaining about that. She's complaining about being a princess, complaining about the treatment she got from the royal family, who are still paying the freight.
Yeah. They got rid of the title and still lived the life. So whatever.
While she's married to a guy, let's face it. I mean, I think she's an attractive woman. There's no question about that. Has a certain amount of appeal. I mean, if you look good in a black and white picture in the New York Post, then you're a good-looking person.
Yeah, she's good.
They don't give you the color on the Bulldog edition I get of the New York Post, so it's a little less. I mean, you get the color on the front and the back, but not in the pictures. Now, how many people, Lubie, really look great in a black and white picture?
Oh, God, well, you can't really even see.
Right? The only time you see guys in those kind of pictures are the managers of the Publix deli. And they have that black and white picture that they hang over the thing. I want to show you this. Okay, now this is a very, I mean, how could you not say that this is an attractive woman here? No?
Yeah,
can you see that, Louie? She looks great.
I know she's good. I'm not fighting that. I just think she whines a lot.
Whines? I mean, how can you possibly have a complaint about? I mean, I brought this up because she's probably the only one that whines more than Yankee fans. And Yankee fans, you should be ashamed of yourself. I mean, what a joke.
I love it. Now
I don't want to get on Tony. Tony's not really this type of fan. I
No,
mean, he's not one of these guys that complains about the Yankees losing and fire
no,
Cashman every day.
no,
So
no.
I'm going to give him a pass on this, Tony Segreto, when he joins us later
Harvey
on.
is.
But
Harvey is.
oh God, were they crying after they're down 2-1? You're down 2-1 in a best of 5 series. You need to win one game on the road against a team that was, I guess, was Cleveland the lowest seed, I think, coming into the
So,
playoffs.
I think
And
so.
you need to win one game there with your $800 zillion payroll, worth of players, where you can afford to have Giancarlo Stanton strike out like 10 times and Judge strike out 10 times out of 12, and you're still going to win because they're going to hit 3-run homers for you, which
Yep.
is what happened yesterday. Wow. I mean, have you ever seen a guy? I thought that guy was going to be revealed that it was Terry Francona's love child that he put out there on the mound. There would be what wasn't that like when the coach's son gets to start a game in a big
Always. I
game,
hate that.
Little League World Series? The Savali, the poor kid, my God. I mean, he didn't have a great season, but anybody that's watched even 2 seconds of baseball in their lifetime could see somewhere about midway through the first at bat that this guy had nothing.
Mm.
I mean, he was yanking his curveball, kind of short arming this breaking ball that he threw, and you literally were thinking, "My God, when this guy throws a strike, someone is going to get hurt on the subway station there in the Bronx." Because I mean, if anything is anywhere near the strike zone, these Yankee hitters are going to tee off on it, and he was just absolutely horrible. So you knew that, and the only guy actually that he got out in the whole ball game was Aaron Judge, struck out,
Of course.
who then he later redeemed himself with a home run, but hardly had the kind of series you would anticipate from a guy that nearly won the Triple Crown. Giancarlo Stanton, though, I mean, he finally put a ball over the plate, this guy, Savali, and that was it. 3-run homer out of the park, and at that point, I felt that the Flowers were in a punch. Not that with 8 more at bats, the Guardians didn't have a chance to come back in the game, but guess what, Yankee fans? All of your concerns, and they were ready to fire Aaron Boone. They wanted Cashman out of there, which I don't say that I'm opposed to either of those moves, but you got the best and the worst if you were a Yankee fan, because you would have to think that Boone and Cashman saved their jobs by prevailing in this series of the lowly Guardians, which is kind of interesting. And now they go on to face the Houston Astros, who have been obviously a nemesis for them, and there's a lot of bad blood there and cheating accusations and things like that. But would you not think? And I'm looking at the handicappers here, the guys that are assessing the series in the New York Post. Now, this is in the New York paper, where your natural tendency would be to say, okay, Yankees in 7, even if you didn't believe it.
Nah, I
Just
mean,
not to fall into total disfavor with your readers. Now, would you think that the people in New York, the fans in New York, are sophisticated enough not to hate a guy who picked against their own team? That answer is a flat out no, because, I mean,
100%. That's my favorite about New York. Like they call South Florida fans bad fans, and New York fans are real, and
yeah,
Chicago, and they're real fans. They turn on their team as quick as anyone. They boo as quick as anyone. They bitch and moan as quick as
they
anyone.
booed
They
Aaron
want to
Judge.
fire everyone as quick as anyone. So it's
Yes.
like, okay, so why are they better? Because they're there to do it. Oh,
They're
that's
the
nice.
Meghan Markle of fans, are they not?
Yeah, all they
Like
do is
you
bitch.
hand a woman like a seat two beats away from the throne in England, and she's like, I don't really like this, huh? It's no
Exactly.
good.
Exactly.
All right. Here's the way they line up, though. It's kind of interesting. All right. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 baseball guys or columnists assessing the series here. The post predictions: Yankees, Astros. John Heyman, very respected baseball writer, Astros in 7. Greg
Oh, really?
Joyce, Astros in 7. Dan Martin, Astros in 6.
Mm.
Ian O'Connor, who've
Got him on a
we've
few
spoken
times.
to, we've spoken to a few times.
Yeah.
Yankees in 7. He's the one guy
He's
that's
a
on the
Yankee
Yankees
dude.
bandwagon.
He's a Yankee guy. He's
Mark
very
Sanchez, that's not the quarterback, that's a writer, says Astros in 6. Joel Sherman, well respected, longtime baseball
yep.
writer, Astros in 6. And our good friend Mike Vaccaro has the Astros in 7. That's pretty unusual, isn't it? I mean, for what should be
Astros
somewhat of
are
an even
better.
Steven series,
The
that's
Astros are better
6
pitching
out of
right
7.
now.
What's
Better
that,
pitch.
Lubie?
Right now, the Astros are better pitching. They have better bullpen. Their lineup can go toe to toe for the most part with the Yankees. I mean, it's the cheating is the only thing hanging over them. I'd be more into the Astros too if they didn't have that cheating crap sitting there. Like
That
the
was
Yankees,
such ugliness, yeah.
the Yankees have sort of been up and down. I just think it's funny that the fans turned that quickly. It's like the series. I'm the first one to turn. Believe me, I yell and bitch about my teams, and even I'm right now with the 3-game losing streak with Florida State saying, "Look, we'll see," because we're in the season. Like, wait till the see. Like in the game, I get it. You're frustrated in the game. In the game when things are going wrong, but once the game's over, I usually okay reassess. But that's what's great about Yankee fans is even after the game, it's still
Even
too.
after they win, they're still pissed.
It's like, guys, I know you won 80 titles. You're quick to tell us
Yeah.
that. Okay, so then you've been here before. Like,
The last time was 2009, though. That's
I
13
know.
years ago. With a team that every year, is gearing itself financially and, with the ability to go out and attract any big name free agent, including, signing Garrett Cole. But when he was the hottest commodity in baseball for $324 million, which now is kind of chump change. It's kind of ridiculous. And the Padres are in the same boat to an extent. They have a lot of high-priced talent there for a team that got shut out last night behind Yu Darvish had a decent outing. And yet, do you think the Mets, this is kind of interesting because this Zach Wheeler became a stud. And they were not a big, they weren't very high on Zach Wheeler. I don't know if they went to any great extent to keep him as a New York Met. I believe, recalling the stuff, the rhetoric that was going around, and I guess you could call it the conversation, Lubie, that was going around at the time, was that Wheeler wanted to stay there, and the Mets were like, yeah, I don't know if you're worth the money. No, look what they're facing. Wheeler is an animal, man. He pitches a one-hitter for 7 innings and shuts out the San Diego Padres on their home turf, including, some killers there. Juan Soto, who they acquired, who hasn't been all that great, and Manny Machado, possibly an MVP. They got Bell in the lineup. Any number of hitters that have been doing a good job in the postseason. And he shuts them down on 1 hit through 7 innings and looks like a monster. And, they instead opted and preferred to have an aging Max Scherzer, who they acquired after that, and a very fragile Jacob deGrom, who naturally, you would be inclined to say, whatever you do, don't let deGrom go. But they're facing that decision. But this guy Wheeler turned out to be the real deal, and maybe is the most likely to have sustained success over the next 5-6 years. You would have to say than any of those 3 guys. Scherzer will be out of baseball by then, and who knows about deGrom? So it's always interesting. It's something that happened as an afterthought. One man gathers. It's the old line from the Grateful Dead. One man gathers what another man spills.
Yep.
And that happens a lot in Major League Baseball. So the Phillies on fire, by the way. Another team with 87 wins during the regular season.
What the hell? I'm so
Get hot at the right time, huh? They are on fire. Bryce Harper, who we've always been somewhat disparaging about the last couple of years. Have you noticed we zipped it on that?
Yeah, we have to. He's
Well,
legit.
and it's clear cut though that the Stone Crab is far more overrated than Bryce Harper at this
Exactly,
point.
at this point.
We thought just the opposite, that Bryce Harper was more overrated than the Stone Crab, but at $65 a pound as a bargain, I'm sorry, Mike Mayo, I ain't buying any. Somebody offers me one. Let's say we go to the Even Keel Fish Shack today, and Brad puts out a couple of stone crabs. Yeah, I'm all in, man.
Of course.
I think I got a piece of shell in my teeth.
I'll be the first one.
Think about that. You do this to torture yourself. Pay huge money. It's like caviar. I never got it with caviar. Did you?
It's fine, but it's not worth the money that you pay for it.
No. You're hoping you don't taste it. When you're paying big money for something that you hope has no taste, it's like these Yankee fans complaining, man. And whining that they went 9-3 in runs in the last 2 games, just blowouts basically. Even though the scores, didn't necessarily reflect, a blowout, but they dominated this game yesterday, and so that was good. And I've often thought this. And I've been questioned. Mayo was challenging my integrity because he said, "How could you have possibly been a Yankee fan and then become a Met fan?"
There wasn't anything else. Oh, it's a switch.
It was the time when I grew up. Look, and see, everybody was backing the front runner. This is my theory about backwheeling the favorite. It's kind of the evolution of a degenerate mindset where, everybody loves one team, so you go ahead and root for the other. And what happened, it turned into one of my most prosperous enterprises ever was when we booked the action against the Yankees in the 1960 World Series, and Mazeroski hit that home run. And I've told the story many times. I did not have the money to pay off the wagers that we had taken. I was in dire straits, and back in the day, man, there was like a big thing with hobos. I don't know if you remember, like guys used to have like a stick that they had over their shoulder, and they'd have a little bag that was made out of like a bandana, more or less. some kind of piece of material like that, and you put all your stuff in there and you carried it over your shoulder. I was in that position on the Myrtle Avenue elevated train in the late stages of that 1960 Game 7 on my way to Queens, man. I had to get out of Brooklyn. I don't know that Queens was far enough away, but I think that's as far as the train went. And there was no way I couldn't come back. I was not going to be able to pay these guys, these Yankee fans that I booked all of their action, all of my friends there at the Clinton Hills Apartments. And Clinton Hill, I guess it was, Clinton Hill Apartments. And that was it. I was done. And then Maz hit that home run. And I got off the train at the next stop, got on the train that was going the opposite way, came back and said, "Okay, boys, where's my money?" I was cowering my way out of town. And that's how the Yankee fans were after Game 3 of this series against the Cleveland Guardians. So they prevail. Nestor Cortez there, Hialeah boy, so we have to embrace his story. He seems like a very, very cool cat, an easy guy to root for. But, a challenging Yankee fan. We always thought this as kids. I remember this distinctly growing up. We figured Casey Stengel was a revered manager. And I would imagine Casey's got to be a Hall of Famer. No, Casey Stengel, he won like 10 World Series with the Yankees. Hall of Famer. I've told this story many times. I had a very prominent Casey Stengel autograph. Actually, nice ink. You could tell that this was authentic. And I had it on a baseball that was signed by the entire roster, opening day roster of the 19. Yeah, this was not the Yankees, but it was the 1963 New York Mets.
Oh, Jesus.
So now, had it been the 62 Mets, that would have been really something.
It's expansion, yeah.
But we were so weird back then, and nobody knew anything about memorabilia or autographs.
Asshole.
We used the ball.
God,
I still remember because Casey signed in a very distinct. He had a great signature, and it was clear cut that when these guys actually signed balls in the clubhouse, which they did back then, it wasn't like the clubhouse manager forged all their signatures. This was authentic as it could possibly get, and Casey's autograph was very distinct and it was very prominent. It was larger than the other autographs that were on the ball. The other 25 guys signed, and it wasn't like you couldn't recognize it. But
are you kidding me?
Very, very distinct. And I remember it actually. Stengel's autograph was obliterated by some guy that was using a black lacquer bat.
Oh my God!
And in one shot, it was no longer distinguishable that it was Stengel's autograph. But we always felt as famous and as prominent as Casey Stengel is as a manager in baseball history, that anybody could have managed the Yankees. In fact, to this day, Lubie, I could still go ahead and write you out the lineup card. And I would imagine anybody else that grew up in New York at the time could do the same thing, right? You had Bobby Richardson leading off playing second base, Tony Kubek batting second, playing shortstop. And then, you went right down the line there. You had Maris, Mantle, Barra, Scarron batting sixth, Hector, who just checked out, Hector Lopez seventh, Clete Boyer batting eighth, 250, 20 home runs, greatest defensive third baseman ever. And maybe you pencil in Whitey.
Who could hit decent, yeah.
So how tough was it to manage this team?
Oh, it wasn't. It's a joke.
Not at all. Yeah, come on. Anybody could have sat there in the dugout and go, "Hey, how you feeling, Whitey? You want to go to distance again? Okay."
Yeah, and that was when pitchers went 9 innings.
Only 4 guys in a rotation. If you brought in a closer, it was little Louis Arroyo. He would come in there and just throw that, fork ball of his, and that was it. It was a very easy team to manage to 100 wins every season. So, and that was kind of the reason that we, a couple of us defected. Because there was an exodus going to Long Island, which the Mets were actually kind of a part of, and B, it was just too easy to root for the Yankees. Who wants to? After a while, I don't know. Winning can be everything, and naturally, if you're at the track, you want to win every race, but you're not going to. But when you're rooting for a team that just year after year wins everything, after a while, we just felt at the time, being contrarians, that, hey, let's root for the worst team in Major League Baseball history, the 1962 New York Mets. And that was great. They won 40 games that year.
Oh, Jesus.
40 and 120. And you're thinking, well, didn't they play 162? And they were so bad that they just didn't even want them to play the other 2 games.
Couldn't even make them up.
Oh, God. They were a horrible team, man. It was amazing. Choo Choo Coleman, one of my favorite catchers of all time. batting like a $160 behind the plate, but a great defensive catcher. As they said on the broadcast, he's the best low ball catcher in the game. The trouble is he can't catch anything above his chest. All those are going right to the screen. It was great. So, yeah, I mean, and that was the other thing. I guess Francesa and other people had noticed that Bob Costas had referenced the fact that the Yankees had hit twice as many home runs as the Cleveland Guardians during the season, over 100 times. And he did throw that in a couple of times yesterday. So is that a sign that he's losing it? I hate to think this because he's a year younger than me, this cat. Are you finding the same thing to be true on these broadcast people? I mean, a lot of people have been, listening and watching now, for many, many years, Lubie. Are there signs? I see signs that it's unraveling mentally for me. I don't know if you do. You don't?
And I'm losing it too then, I guess. I don't know. That's very possible.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, Yankees move on, and I think that's good. Boone and Cashman will be back. They give the Yankee fans that'll stir the pot of complaints, and they can all go Meghan Markle. Oh my God! I had to stand there with a suitcase for $2,000 a show. Get the fuck out of here! Just because you married a guy that looks like Carson Wentz, who, on your advice, left the royal family.
Exactly.
Yeah. Never mind. I mean, being the heir to the throne there, man. That's over with now. I mean, it's like you stopped going to temple after your bar mitzvah, which I did. No longer a connection with God. I'm on my own, kid. Very much on my own. All right, the Phillies and the Padres, that was also interesting. I mean, I don't know how many strikeouts there were in that game, but there were only 4 hits in the entire ballgame.
Jesus.
2 of which were home runs, one of which was historic. Speaking of Mickey Mantle and a baseball card, I used to have this one, and I believe it was in Detroit, Tiger Stadium, where Mickey Mantle hit one of the longest home runs in baseball history, like an over 500-foot job before it was really common to have an instant measurement and, exiting velocity and all of these other numbers now that they patch in, which drive you out of your mind. I don't know. Just because that left the bat at 104 miles an hour doesn't mean it wasn't caught on a line by the second baseman. Okay, so what does it all mean? Nothing. Except when a ball leaves the park, and now you have these instant measurement stats being given to you about the distance of the home run that it would have traveled, which is hard to measure, right? When it hits a chair in the upper deck and bounds back into the field, and you go, oh, there it was, 488 feet. But there was a famous baseball card, which I had, I don't know, I think I had more than one copy of this. I don't know if it would be of any great value anymore. And it had a perforated line of the trajectory of Mickey Mantle's historic home run that I believe left Tiger Stadium. Like it was like the only ball ever hit like completely out of this ballpark. And it was a baseball card from the Top Series that depicted that. And they had the trajectory line of the home run. And I forget what the measurement was on that, but I had that card for a long time. But this was serious tape measure stuff. Did you see Schwarber's home run?
Like what, 488, right?
488, they said. 488. I mean, and nobody hits the ball in the upper deck there. What is it? Petco Park, the name of the San Diego Stadium.
Yeah.
Nice looking ballpark, by the way. Wow.
Beautiful.
And the lone professional team left in San Diego. San Diego, not big. I mean, they're very, I mean, you talk about blasé Californians. If LA is sort of detached from what's going on a daily basis, yeah, man, did you try the Sprouts? No, I had a Chardonnay and I decided to have the salmon. That's LA. Not even the salmon. I had the sand dabs with a little bit of lemon. Mayo would love it out there. Very pretentious when it comes to food. But, I mean, in San Diego, they really don't give a flying one, right? Old ladies, like when we were in Encinitas out there, when we went to catch a few races at Del Mar last year, the funniest thing was, like, you're huffing and puffing to get up these stairs that lead down to the beach. All right, because everything's on a cliff there in that part of Southern California, and you're literally walking down like a very arduous flight of stairs, Lubie. Going down, no problem. Going up, a whole nother story. And then, as you're like thinking, oh, geez, my legs are cramping here. Maybe I ought to just stop for a second. But you don't want to look like an asshole, and like you're totally out of shape. And then some old lady, like a 90-year-old lady with a surfboard and a wetsuit, will go blowing by you going, hey, nice day today. Granny, you going to breakfast? Yeah, okay. We'll start the van. And she's throwing her surfboard in a van like she was, in that
Point Break.
Patrick Swayze movie, Point Break. And then they're tossing a football around on the beach in the middle of the night. 90-year-old bag. they're not at Publix going, hey, will you honor this coupon?
Exactly.
There must be something in the air out there in California.
Oh
All
my
right, so the Phillies win that. Dave Dombrowski, we're happy for him, of course. He took over about midway through the season as the president, and I'm not sure
yeah.
exactly what his
Yeah.
title is of the Philadelphia Phillies, but walked into a pretty good situation. And Bryce Harper with a home run in a ball game. That was ultimately the deciding run. Tremendous outing by Zach Wheeler. They had a couple of relievers come in that also were lights out. Here are the Philadelphia Phillies with one of the. Did they have the worst record of any team that's in the postseason, or were they like 86 wins? And they're on fire right now. They can do no wrong. They've only lost one game so far in the postseason, and up on a 1-0 start over the Padres, who are also unlikely to be there. That whole theory about the disadvantage of being the better team and sitting out the first, it went 50-50.
Yeah.
Which is that not reasonable? I mean, with the Yankees and Houston prevailing, and Houston did it in a cakewalk, right? Just took Seattle right out of there in 3 games, although actually it was 4 games because they played 18. 18. I mean, do we really need an 18-inning baseball game, Louis? Maybe after 12 innings in the playoffs, throw a guy out there. Throw a guy on third base, for God's sake. Just put a guy on third to start the inning after 15. Have him 1 foot from home plate, and all he's got to do is step on a plate, and the ball game is over. That would be great. Many other things happening. Basketball got underway last night. NBA.
It did.
Okay, the Celtics. Wow, I mean, there was a lot of speculation. It shows you how great the experts are. And you would have thought that this was extremely logical to believe that with Ime Udoka in that situation blowing up at the last minute. And then there was talk during the offseason. I don't know who planted this talk or how relevant it was that the Celtics were willing to trade their 2 stars for Kevin Durant. Or one, yeah.
They weren't trading Jason Tatum. They wanted to trade Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, some other guys for KD, supposedly.
Okay, so and there was Marcus Smart in the middle of everything last night for the Celtics as they beat the 76ers and seemed to handle them pretty well. I think the game was tied at halftime. And then they pulled away in the second half. So the Celtics, and the way they celebrated with Joe Mazzulla, who took over for Udoka and was one of his assistants. Did it look like they were lacking in chemistry, Lubie? Did you see this? I mean, they absolutely love this guy.
I'm sure.
Now, they played lousy ball for the first half of last season under Udoka.
Yeah.
And Stephen A. Smith, speaking of great sports talk speculation, has asserted that the reason that Udoka was not fired and was only suspended was that he was a certainty in Stephen A. Smith's mind, unverified and through no sources but his own intuition, which he's been right about a couple of things here and there. He throws a lot of garbage out there, but NBA seems to garner at least enough respect not to be laughed at and mocked universally for this opinion. So I don't know if there's any truth to it, but nonetheless, he was speculating the only reason that they put him under suspension was so that he could not become the Nets coach, which he no doubt was destined to be. That was Stephen A. Smith's speculation about Udoka.
Yeah, I mean, he was there. It makes sense.
Well, he was an assistant there, and Steve Nash was obviously in some form of disfavor. You think if Kevin Durant is going publicly about how he thinks Steve Nash doesn't know what he's doing, which is hard to imagine. Because here was a guy that was a genius point guard. I mean, he was tremendous. The proverbial coach on the floor. And you would think that, just like with Magic Johnson, it's so weird how it doesn't necessarily translate into being a good coach.
It rarely does. I mean, it rarely are the great players great coaches because they can't understand someone not being able to do things as easily as they could. It's hard for them to understand it.
Well, and also it's probably not an easy situation. I mean, you not only have NBA egos to deal with, but you have head case NBA egos
Nash
to deal with.
Other thing. I don't know. I'm not going to say Nash can't coach. That's why the Spoelstra thing was so impressive because not only did he weather that first storm, unlike Van Gundy.
The challenge from LeBron, I mean, was very. It was just symbolically played out there when he shoved him to the side and said, "Hey, get out of my way."
That first year, he could have gone Van Gundy, and Spoelstra stood up and was like, "No." And Spoelstra is the one that, with Riley, got in LeBron's ear and was like, "Look, you got to change your game. You can't let Jason Kidd, old Traumerman, and the little guy push you around. You have to go and beef up and change your game." And LeBron had, as good as he's been since, and he's been amazing. Those next 3 years were his best. I mean, he was just a freaking force. That was all Spoelstra. That's rare. Like your first job should not be with Hall of Famers. Like
Well,
it's
I mean,
really
look,
hard. Like
he is a protege and the epitome of a Pat Riley clone
Spoelstra,
in
yeah.
so many different
Even
ways.
Nash, it's not easy.
Handpicked, as Mick would say, these were handpicked fighters, Rock. Handpicked by Riley to take over, and that looks like a pretty wise decision. Pat Riley's made a few mistakes in his basketball executive career. That was not one of them. And the Warriors handle the Lakers in the second half. They pull away in that ball game. I guess the Lakers made it close, somewhat so, in the fourth quarter. A lot of conversation about how the Lakers stink. I saw Kendrick Perkins on, who suddenly has become the Al DeRogatis of basketball. And, and I'm not sure that he's saying anything of any great relevance.
That's the problem with Perk.
But he's an intimidating looking dude. And, people knew him for that sour face that he had. So the fact that he's sort of, a gentle soul by comparison as a commentator, I find it. I'll listen, I'll watch, and then I'll think, wow, that was ridiculous, Kendrick. What did you just say? Down on Rob Pelinka, who another one of those guys that for not really doing anything of any great, individual accomplishment outside of that when he first was named GM, that they ended up winning the title that year, the Lakers. Do they not have the talent to be considered title contenders?
They should.
Of course they do. I mean, just the fact that you have LeBron James on your team makes you a title contender. And who's more remarkable, Brady at 45 or LeBron James?
LeBron
Playing a sport that involves a much higher level overall of athleticism.
When he still does it, he's at 31-8-4.
It's hard to hide your age in basketball if you're aging as an athlete, whereas you might be able to disguise it at the quarterback position.
Well, especially
somewhat.
Now, position now, where literally Justin Herbert got chest bumped.
Yeah.
Didn't even fall down, and they called a roughing the pass with the ball in his hand. They called a roughing.
Yeah. The guy high-fived him, and as he was, going by him without touching him, he said, "I'm a great admirer of yours, Justin, and I think you're going to be a superstar in this league." Whoop! Here comes a flag. That's roughing the passer. Taunting. They flagged the guy for taunting on that.
So that, yes, QB can last a little longer with that. LeBron still goes to the basket at will, still is doing all the crazy athletic stuff he always did. Yeah. It's impressive. It's just the problem is he couldn't get out of. If he had just stayed out of personnel decisions, they'd be considered higher. The problem is you're counting on Anthony Davis a lot with what they have around them, and Anthony Davis is going to get hurt. Like, that's just who Anthony Davis is.
You think Udoka was banging the owner's wife in the locker room?
The fact that it got to this, it went that quickly.
How does this stack up, with our good friend, and I hate to even bring this up because I don't like to bring up disparaging things about Rick Pitino because we love the guy.
He's great.
But, if you were going to have your man card stamped, banging some woman on the table of a closed Italian restaurant, a small little Italian joint in Louisville, where the owner throws you the keys and says, hey, Rick, after you finished with her, why don't you lock the place up? That's right out of a Bronx Tale. What are you talking about?
100%.
That's legendary stuff. So where does Udoka possibly, and I'm speculating on this, but this was not some inconsequential secretary that just got the job from a temporary agency. Boston Celtics, hello? No, this had to be somebody of significance.
It just happened really fast, and they didn't really mess with it at all. They just said, screw this. It feels like there's a lot more to it, and we'll eventually find out in some book, 5 years or whatever.
I don't know. That's interesting, too. I'm glad you brought that up because it was something I wanted to make reference to here before we, we've been schlubbering here for a while, but having a good time. And that is, Snyder is threatening to, it's supposedly hired like private investigators to get dirt on other owners. Now, with Jim Irsay, the dirt is right there. It's a public record, some of it. So who knows what else, right?
Exactly.
If that was the time you got nailed, was that an isolated incident?
No, they always say that. Like, you didn't get nailed the one time you did it.
Yeah. How many times have you been, thinking, hey, I'm slightly inebriated, and we would never condone this or recommend it. Not with Uber out there. It's not worth taking a chance, people, on driving while you're impaired. Now, I try to make a point of making sure I don't get in a car if I feel like I'm incapable of driving. I will not do that.
That'd be dumb.
And when I go out with people, I try my best at this point in my life to consume the least amount of alcohol because I mean, even offered free drinks or whatever, I'm just like, no, I'm driving and I'm done.
Well, I've always
And,
knocked it out early so that
yeah,
the rest of the night I will sober up. I've never driven. I'm sure I had some alcohol in my system, but I've never been like
right.
there's too much that can go wrong and there's too much at stake for you and those around you.
But if you do get caught, it's a good chance it's not the first time that you've been in that situation, and it probably won't be the last. As unfortunate as that is, that's human nature. So I don't know. With Jim Irsay, you would imagine there's plenty of dirt that Snyder could be digging up, and especially while using, I mean, some Nick Nolte type, private investigator that's sneaking around there in a Columbo raincoat and saying, "You see what old Jimmy Boy was doing here at this motel?" Bobby Kraft was caught on surveillance tape on
Exactly.
another investigation walking out of a place that was engaged in sex trafficking.
Exactly.
What else could they have on this guy?
Oh my God, no! On all of them, they're gonna have something on all of them. You know that uber rich people are very,
They're bizarre.
no, they're bizarre, but they're also, I don't want to say laissez-faire, but their egos are so large that they just assume they can get away with whatever they want. So they do the craziest shit. And they're also
All right.
bold.
No. I mean, yeah, I'm with you 100% on it.
Yeah.
So if Snyder is threatening to spill the beans there, and now would that be? I mean, think about this. Remember Chris Hansen, the host of The
Oh
Bachelor
yeah,
and
it's best.
Bachelorette, who left in disgrace. Now, what did he do? He got paid off the $1 zillion that they owed him on his contract, plus probably a very generous gratuity for keeping his,
Oh, shit.
secrets to himself and deciding not to write the tell-all book. As they even have an episode on The Bachelor and Bachelorette, The Bachelor, it's tell-all or whatever, where they all come on after the, season is shot and, and whine and complain about each other some more. Meghan Markle, how was she never on The Bachelorette? Oh, because she knew she was going to marry a guy that looks like Carson Wentz. I mean, that's not our fault. I mean, Carson Wentz seems like a good guy, but I don't know that he's the most attractive human being on the planet. You, what do you think, Libby?
I don't know. I've never judged his looks. He looks like Opie.
Put that up as our dead ringer. Carson Wentz, Prince Harry. And tell me I'm not onto something there. All right, we're going to talk to Tony Segreto here. We're going old school with Tony. He's a giant Yankee fan, so he has to be feeling a huge sense of relief. And also, wow, does he owe a sincere apology to Ed Garcia of Texas Roadhouse Restaurant?
Yes, we were. Well, I was there. I was making fun of Ed a lot because Michigan hadn't played anyone.
Ed
Well,
was
it
nice
matter.
enough not to cancel his contract with us while you guys were ragging on him. While I was saying, wow, Michigan, you know what? That game against Texas San Antonio, that really showed me something. That Indiana game.
You're a phony.
Of course, I know where my bread is buttered, Lubie. That's what this business is all about. It's not like I'm Mehmet Oz trying to sell you something that you can lose weight with, and then because how is it that all these charlatans there are now head politicians, right?
And I was
Trump
talking
a
about
phony his whole life.
they're
President.
all. What do you mean?
Tommy
The rest of them-
Tuberville. I mean, just telling kids, I mean, outright. I mean, he hates black people. This guy, it seems. No, making like
Herschel
blatant
Walker-
racist statements.
You can't, it's so bad with her. You can't even make fun of the way he talks because it's a sad situation. The dude is literally has CTE.
He's out of his mind.
Can't put a sentence together,
Yeah,
and he's gained ground on.
he's ahead of the guy. I think.
Could he really?
Oh my God. I don't. Yeah, we don't want
I
to go.
don't
to
get it. I
that
don't care what
right now.
party you're affiliated with. Believe me, whenever the Dems have a loon, I'm like, the guy's a fucking loon, or that lady's a loon. Like, a loon's a loon. Like, I don't care what your party is.
I can't believe it. I really can't. That Costa Rica proposition is starting to look more and more appealing to me
I
almost every day. I'd rather be in some country that was literally a banana republic. I don't know that Costa Rica is that.
It's not.
No, but I mean, I would go even deeper into South America.
Exactly.
To find something that isn't this. It really bananas. That clip, I can't believe it. Say what you want about Woody Allen. Talk about strange, but wow, was he? I mean, was he prophetic in making that movie? I mean, it's incredible. Everything that guy said in that speech is happening right now in America.
yeah, for sure.
It's crazy. This is the path that we have chosen. I tell you, who chose a great path? That was Hialeah Park, and they stuck to their guns. I mean, and they have an appreciation, deep appreciation for old school, for the tradition that was and the history that was written and made at beautiful Hialeah Park. And I'm so happy. I mean, part of my life, on my walk of life now, you start reflecting like, hey, it's 71. How much time do I have left? What were the great things about my life? And I just have vivid memories of being at Hialeah Park and enjoying every aspect of it, even while getting cremated at the windows. I didn't mind. I would go out and talk to the peacocks out there. They had like a little aviary thing going on. It was great. Or sit by the fountain there and, hope maybe that somebody could offer me a ride home, so I wouldn't have to take a cab because, the car wasn't starting anymore. And, or you might have even sold it. Didn't matter to me. It was great because I was at Hialeah Park and part of a tremendous, piece of Americana and American history and sports history. And, one of the great guys I ever met in my lifetime was John Brunetti Sr. There was always, controversy surrounding John because he was operating sort of in, I don't want to say renegade fashion because it seemed like the big establishments were against his whole individual effort to go out there and do, the things that he did that were fantastic in thoroughbred racing. And then he came up with this idea he was going to open a casino, and people thought he was flat out of his mind. That's just the truth. It was like, wow. I mean, I love the old man, but and you know what? That not only sort of was a springboard for a resurrection of a lot of the things that he was representing before in his lifetime when they opened his casino. Very proud of it. And his sons, John Jr. and Steve, have carried on the tradition with the same people in place there. Same people. When we were at the Tiki Bar, what was one of the things that you noticed? Same people that had been working there in 2004 when we were there quite a bit, still working there. That's a good sign that this is a happening place and the place is run right. And that's what Hialeah Park is all about. So we can't pay any higher testimony to him. Tony will tell you the same thing. He's had a brilliant association with Hialeah Park his entire lifetime. And we know that Tony Segreto is classy an individual as you'll find on the planet, as nice a guy as you'll ever meet in your lifetime, almost so genuinely nice that you're like, please, Tony, say something mean, anything. And he just can't bring himself to do it. But, he also, a longtime advocate of Hialeah Park, and we know that he likes to plunge. So he would love it. I don't know if he's a casino player, but certainly the champion simulcasting room for the Breeders' Cup. If I'm down there, I'll get that call from Tony on those special days. Can you bet me? And he's one of these guys, he doesn't want you to bet like $10 across the board on a horse or something that you can handle. And you say, well, look, I'll take him winning place. I don't have the 30, to lay out the show here, Tony. I got my own bankroll here. I brought my own money to the track. That's what I have to spend. I don't want to compromise my bankroll, even if I'm up. And he'll call in, I want a $200 exacta box. Like, who does that? $200. Tony, do you know that that's $1,200 if I do this? Crazy. So anyway, no, but he would tell you the same thing. I mean, I know I saw Tony around there a lot when I was working there at Hialeah Park for many, many years doing TV. And, it was always great seeing Tony. It was like royalty showed up there on the grounds, and there was always a big story happening, and it's the same way today. And you can be a part of it. A winning casino and a great vibe, tremendous atmosphere with outstanding customer service. It's beautiful Hialeah Park. And we are getting ready in the champion simulcasting room for the Breeders' Cup. That's 2 days of racing royalty going at each other, and big scores to be made. You'll have horses, Lubie, that won like 3 straight grade 1s in Europe, and they're 40-1.
Jesus, really?
It's the kind of action you want. Yeah,
That's...
it's not like betting chalk in a football game and going down in flames. All right, we're coming up with an old school, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, Catholic Health Services, and that's coming up. Tony Segreto going to join us here in just a moment. I would imagine he might even have like a Sherlock Holmes Yankee hat with the Yankee emblem on the front and the back and 2 brims.
He's very Yankee right now, yes. I can see him off air, and he's smiling. But look, good for him because he's not the Yankee fans we were making fun of earlier. We make fun of him for being Mr. Pot. Like when it was 2-1.
No, he's all right with that. Yeah,
I'm sure he was like, they're going to get him. They're the Yankees. Like, he's Segreto. Like, I'm sure he wasn't even batting an eye when all these other Yankee fans were jumping off the side of the freaking Brooklyn Bridge.
It was over. Yeah,
he's constant optimist. He's the one that's still standing by the Canes. Oh, it's okay. They're
Mario, he's doing a good job there. You know what? The kids are going to respond. All right, we'll talk to Tony. I'm sure he's a happy man here today in just a moment. On Old School with Tony Segreto. That's coming up on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz back here on South Florida Live in a moment. Now that. Oh, and later on, right? So some nice, you talk about being in the media, and if it's free, it's me. Some nice food we're going to have there at Even Keel Fish Shack with Mike Mayo in the lunchbox. That's Lauderdale by the Sea, right down the street from me. And looking forward to being out there today, 12 o'clock, if you want to join us. It's 8:01.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
All right, this is not the type of guy, and welcome back to the show. Jeff DeForest, we got Mike Lubitz, and we welcome in, and always look forward to this every Wednesday, one of our favorite times of the week. We get to talk to a real class gentleman here on the program for an hour. It's called Old School with Tony Segreto, and of course, Tony, and we gave you a pass, Tony. You are not one of those Meghan Markle, I'm going to complain about being a Princess Yankee fans. Because you don't, I don't know that you were suicidal after Game 3. Actually, when they lost Game 3, I said to myself, and I have no particular rooting interest. I mean, I wouldn't, I would have admired the upset there because, it would have been great to see a young team knock off this giant. I mean, it's just a good sports story. And yet, I'm glad the Yankees are facing the Astros because I think that's probably going to make for a more compelling, narrative throughout the series there. And, we know there's bad blood there between the two teams. But after Game 3, when they lost, I said, they're going to come back and win this thing in 5. Why are the Yankee fans?
Yeah,
I mean, suicidal. It was unbelievable, and they were ready to fire Boone, which they might still be ready to. But I mean,
they've already said that. Yeah, Boone's gone. They said regardless of what the outcome is, Boone. Good morning.
But, how are you, Tony?
I'm doing great. I'm doing beautiful fall day here in Vermont. I mean, it's
a little cool around here. I actually walked outside and took out the trash because when I opened the door to let the dog out the other side of the house, I said, wow, that was a waft of like fresh, cool air.
Yeah, it's 32 degrees here this morning, so it's a little cooler.
Not quite that
here.
cool. Yeah,
no,
double that.
But I have to tell you, I was sharing with someone yesterday, in fact, and ironic you say this, about Yankee fans, and I told you that when I was born, in the bassinet, my father and uncles put a DiMaggio jersey, a baby, like a child's DiMaggio jersey. Being Italian American, and living in northern New Jersey and East Patterson, you were just a Yankee fan. You were just born with pinstripes on you. And I was, I love listening to Mel Allen. I would listen to games growing up. I was recited when my son was born. He's the oldest. I literally held him in my arms hours after he was born and recited the 61 lineup.
Nice.
I mean, I'm serious, Lubie.
Richardson, Kubek, Maris, Mantle, Berra.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Moose.
Skowron, yeah, absolutely.
Hector.
And then, I wind up playing ball and playing ball with a lot of high-level guys, Bucky and Mickey and all these guys, and wind up actually getting involved with the Yankees early in my career.
Was this Hialeah High School?
No, well, they went to Hialeah. I went to Bucky went to Hialeah.
Okay.
Mickey went to Northwestern. I was at Archbishop Curley, and we played against each other. Then we all played on a troop together. Anyway, my history with them goes back to not just being a fan, but just being involved with them in various ways. It was very serendipity how all of it happened. But, I did not panic after Game 3. I thought the series was compelling. I thought it was interesting that, finally the pressure appeared to get to Aaron Judge, but then he had his moments when he would just, you could tell he was breathing. But I love the series, and I wanted that Houston series to happen. And it wasn't just me. I don't know about you, Jeff, but but when my children were born, they were born to be Yankee fans. That's it. So my daughter we were all watching the game. We all showed our TVs on, and then it was just a great week. And now we look forward to what's going on with Houston. We'll see what happens today.
Yeah, very popular with the Italian community for sure.
Oh my
DiMaggio
gosh.
and then Yogi and
Yeah.
of course Joe Pepitone. I mean, you had so many legendary Italian players.
It
Phil
was
Rizzuto
incredible. Yeah.
doing ball games.
Yeah.
Very popular with a lot of. The way the team was constructed, there was somebody for everybody to root for. Whether you were an African American, whether because they had Elston Howard was a prominent member of those teams when
Oh my gosh,
you didn't see as many black players in baseball
and black catchers
Yeah.
catchers at the time. He too. I mean, that was odd. And he had a very distinct style.
Howard was great. Yeah, underrated.
He would be able to put his glove at a 90-degree angle when at that time all the great catchers at that time, from Bill Dickey to Yogi, and all around that era, they were never at 90. They were always, they weren't athletic or certainly as athletic as a Johnny Bench was, or a Carlton Fisk. But we're talking guys who they were just old school. They weren't as Elson was regimented. He was like book. If you wanted to teach a catcher how to be behind the plate, you looked at Elson Howard.
Great hitter, though. I mean, he led the American League in hitting that one year, didn't he? With 350 and had a sensational year. No, I remember the wide open closed stance and the ability to put the ball in right field. I mean, a fundamental, old school fundamental that probably could be very, very useful today.
Yeah.
As you see guys getting thrown out by the second baseman who's pinned to the fence in right field.
Yeah.
In right center, and yet he's making a routine play out of just a sizzling line drive.
Yeah.
So no, it was all good stuff. I really enjoyed that. Now,
I want to just say one thing to you, and please, I'm sorry for the interruption, but this is brought back a memory. You talked about the Italian American culture with all the players, and Lubie, you have to understand this was, back in the 50s and 60s. This was, the neighborhoods were like we are in Miami now, which I have such great admiration for. You've got the Cuban Americans in one area and the Colombians in one. I just love that. I love the way they've set up their neighborhoods, and I remember my father and uncle sitting around, eating their fruit, glass of wine, having their, cracking their nuts that, they had their walnuts and their almonds or whatever. And she yelling at the TV in Italian. I mean, in Italian, and like this, like Joe, just great stuff, just great memories. And that's why I love the game so much. And to be able to have played it and be able to, I was laughing with my daughter. I go, she goes, I hate the Astros, Dad. I can't wait. I want us to beat them. And I go, so funny. I said, I want the Yankees to win too. I said, this is a team that drafted your father, the Astros. And she goes, Dad,
really?
Dad, she goes, Dad, that was 100 years ago, for goodness sake. Give it up.
What round was this?
He drafted
I don't remember. 16th
Were you drafted
round.
ahead of Piazza? I mean,
No,
No, 16th
that's higher than
round, something
Piazza.
like that.
16th round is higher
16th
than
yeah.
round.
Piazza.
Who'd they have
round,
catching at the
sorry.
time? Del Crandall? I don't know. Oh, you were not a catcher. I don't know why I think
No.
He was
you were like a second baseman or something,
Yeah,
like Teddy
yeah,
Lazzari.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Tony Lazzari.
That's just
He was an outfielder.
that was just an aside, a father and daughter conversation. Dad,
Yeah.
for goodness sake, it was like, Dad, that was that was 100 damn years ago. For goodness sake, stop it.
I often think about that. I mean, I really do. I was thinking about somebody that I knew in high school and had recently had some contact with on Facebook, and I was thinking that was 53 years ago, and I can still envision her in that striped sweater that she was wearing that day, thinking, "My God, isn't it about time you really got started?" In this other aspect of life.
You sound
which
like
I'm-
Seinfeld with the library book, and he goes, "I remember she was wearing a purple dress, and no, Jerry, I was wearing an orange dress." He goes, "Weren't you drinking? Weren't you having dentine?" She goes, "No, blackjack, whatever the gum was." He didn't remember anything.
Well, you're close. You're in the ballpark, so
Yeah,
to speak. As the Yankees are now, they have to hustle, and they'll play again tonight against the Houston Astros. Astros set up pretty well, and they are going to throw Tyon out there on the mound to start for the New York Yankees. Garrett Cole was up there in the bullpen. That was kind of cool. Gibson-esque, getting ready to come in there. I don't know if that would have been a great move. Now if he brought in Garrett Cole, imagine this. The narrative would have changed dramatically. if he had brought in Garrett Cole to pitch, and he serves up like a gopher ball for the
Yep.
walk-off home run by the Guardians.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't have been a walk-off. The Yankees still would have had it at bat, but that would have been it. They would have gotten rid of Boone. They would have run Cole out of town with his $324 million. And Cashman would have been, seeing
Yeah.
pictures of Lisa Meanwell being sent to him every day, like by the dozens in the mail. Every envelope he opened would have had a picture of Lisa in there saying, "Hey, where's my money, kid?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to talk."
Hey, I got a shout out to Ron Darling. You know what? His style is so different, but I love listening to him.
Well, that's what I was going to get to here, because you have to weigh in on this Costas stuff, Tony Segreto. Now, I would imagine you work with Costas, NBC. He's hosting the Olympics. You're doing a lot of Olympic coverage. Let's go out to the field there, track and field meet, and we have Tony Segreto. Tony.
He's a
Right?
he's a good friend. I'll tell you a quick story. It was the national championship game, the Gators. I think it was Gators, Oklahoma, at the Orange Bowl.
Them Gators.
We had the Orange Bowl game, and it was the day before I'm going to retire. Actually, I finished my 6 o'clock show, and I had my son with me, and we went to the national championship game. And the next day was going to be my last day, and I'm walking through the concourse, and I hear Segreto screaming. He goes, "Are you dying?" I look up, and it's Costas. I go, "What?" He goes,
No, you
"Man,
look down, and it was Costas.
He goes, "You got my mom all upset. She loves you. You're retiring. I listen to all these radio spots. It sounds like you're dead, for goodness sake. You okay?"
Nice.
And my son is like, "That's Bob Costas." And so
Costas.
that's
high recognition.
we work together a lot. I love Bob.
All right.
I love Bob. I know he's getting a lot of criticism.
He's being lampooned. I checked it out for myself because I wanted to have my own opinion on this. And I've known Costas. I didn't know him well, but he was at Syracuse when I was there.
Yeah.
I do remember him. We thought he was like a complete dweeb and a nerd, because there was a basketball game between the guys that wrote for the newspaper and were on the radio station. And that was WAER, and of course, I think it was called the Syracuse Orange or whatever, the newspaper, and the Daily Orange or something, like the Daily Planet. And anyway, and Costas was in this game, and I was a good basketball player at the time, and there were many others that were very good. I mean, the talented players that were playing in this media game, and Costas was not one of them, man. And you were thinking, look at this. The guy has no idea what he's doing. And, he was announcing games at the time and was already good. I mean, he was already good doing like Syracuse basketball, which didn't really hit its, height until a period of time shortly after that. They were kind of in a transitional period there. And then they eventually became like a perennial power, a couple of years after we left there. But he was great, and I remember seeing him on his first national game. And now I grew up like you at Mel Allen, and then had the pleasure for 8 years of living in California of like a daily dose of Vin. Who I got to know, so that made it even. It was like your friend was literally talking to you through the radio.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
It was Shakespearean. I mean, it was just fantastic. And Costas was in that category to me as a baseball announcer. I mean, he was right up there with the greats, I thought.
Yeah.
And then I see him getting harpooned. I mean, just every day, including today, in the Post, where the guy was sort of complimentary, just saying, he might have recovered from what was just an atrocity early in the series when he was doing the broadcast. What do you think?
I didn't think it was I love Bob. Bob has not changed ever. Bob is a storyteller. He's a historian. He loves his sports. Baseball is his passion. People are like all getting, wrapped up going, well, what is this talking about 1832 and all of these things?
The Gas House Gang,
the Gas House Gang and all. And I'm thinking to myself, this is Bob. Bob hasn't changed. He hasn't changed a bit. You just haven't heard him in a long time. And maybe it's starting to rub you the wrong way. But you know what? He's full of anecdotes. I thought when he called Bieber Justin Bieber, I thought he joked a lot and try to get into the moment. And he was getting lampooned for that, guys.
Well, they were saying he wasn't letting Darling say a word, which a lot of people like Ron Darling. I've seen him on broadcast. He's all right with me.
Ron Darling is the analyst version of Pat Summerall, God rest his soul.
Oh yeah, okay.
Pat
didn't say much. I mean, let Brookshire do it. Yeah.
Pat didn't say much, but when he said it, you paid attention, and it was perfect.
Yep.
Ron Darling doesn't say much, but when he says it, it's perfect. And
Worthwhile.
you know how freaking smart he is when you just hear him talk. Doesn't raise his voice. He's never changed. He knows everybody without showing off that he knows everybody. You know what I mean?
He showed great restraint by not strangling Costas in the first couple of games, according to all reports. Although, like I said, I didn't really pay that much attention to the first couple of games.
This Bobby. That's how Bobby is. But Bobby hasn't changed. He's not going to change. It's just the way he is.
You didn't see signs of senility like a lot of people.
Oh gosh, no. No. In fact, I thought he was pretty darn. I said, man, for 71, he's as sharp as a tack.
Well, I mean, that's an age here. It's a number that's difficult to deal with. I tell you, a guy who's good at numbers here, and I'm waiting. I'm waiting for you, Tony, to just. I don't know if we can see you when you're on your knees, but you should issue an apology to this man.
I am
Ed
going
Garcia.
to bow. I am going to bow. Well, I have to. I will.
You
tell
insinuated his Michigan Wolverines were nothing, were frauds, and they go and shellac against all the experts. They shellac Penn State.
Get this. You know what? I swear, I don't know. Your age is getting to you. I never was never insulting to them. I just said they had not played anybody. In fact, on Saturday,
I thought I heard the word patsies thrown
around. Well, they were. They played.
Cupcakes.
They did. They played cupcakes and patsies. Ed, good morning. I will have to tell you, I'm grabbing, Saturday's my day to go get my donuts, and I'm grabbing my donuts in the town next to me here in Vermont. And there's a guy walking around with a Michigan hat. And I went, big game today. He goes, we got this. And I'm thinking,
they did.
Wow. Tell us, how do you feel?
Oh my gosh, I am so excited. The first half, I mean, we were dominating. They kept going 3 and out. We never punted the ball. I mean, that's a pretty cool stat. And, we had 2 flukes. I felt the double bounce off the helmet and the quarterback sneak that, he got almost all the way into the end zone. That put him on top 14-13 and made it a game, but made some adjustments. We didn't allow any more mistakes and then just absolutely dominated that second half. I mean, that was football.
Yeah. I assume now that you're not going to miss any more games.
Oh, absolutely not. And I don't know if you heard, the Michigan State game is at 7:30. I'm not sure what I'm going to do from 6 a.m. till 7:29.
Oh, I think you'll figure out something. I'm sure there'll be some Texas Roadhouse margaritas somewhere around. Well, I'm happy for you. You're the first person. I texted you right after the game. I mean, it was a huge win. Wow, that was a spanking for sure. And people didn't believe Michigan was there. And I think it also kind of puts to rest that debate over who should have been the quarterback, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's all done. But anyway, I would suppose that the Texas Roadhouses in the Michigan area did quite well, not to mention all over the country. And then I have a question to ask you after you filled me in on that.
Yes, it was a great weekend. Couldn't be more proud. People were using the mobile app. I'll tell you, been such an uptick recently with people downloading the app and using that, because not only is it great for placing to-goes, but at the same time, you put your name right on the weight. So when there's that, even if it's 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, hour and a half, you just put your name right in the queue so you can stop at CVS or do what you need to do on your way in and show up and not wait too long and get seated with that hot, fresh baked bread and a legendary margarita.
And I have to ask you, there are stories nationally, locally with what we're going on, in the country, and how, I mean, even McDonald's has raised their prices.
Oh yeah, everyone.
And Wendy's is wait. How have you maintained with over 600 stores? How have you been able to maintain your amazing pricing to go along with the amazing food without suffering any quality of any kind or service of any kind or anything that you do top of the line?
Well, Texas Roadhouse, the concept is absolutely amazing. Every restaurant has an owner-operator, but we are blessed with a support center in Louisville, Kentucky, and a group of people that do our purchasing. And it's not just like, hey, we're doing business. It's a relationship. So we have relationships with our vendors that have been around, which coming up in February 17th is our 30-year anniversary of Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah, nice.
And that has really helped us maintain and and we buy the quality and we do it in-house. We also don't pay people to cut the steaks for us or to prep the potatoes or anything else. We do that in-house with a staff. I mean, you've been in our kitchens. We have 30 people back there. You go to similar concepts, they'll have 6 or 7. And yes, it costs us more in labor, but you can taste the difference. So.
Absolutely. It's remarkable. So I think that we have to tell people, not only do you get a great meal, but with the prices of everything going up from your Big Mac to your Frosties, whatever you buy, even fast foods, you're going to get the same quality and the same pricing at Texas Roadhouse that you got a month ago or 2 months ago. I'm telling you, Ed, it's incredible. It really, really is. And now with football season ramped up and the Major League Playoffs going like they are and NFL season, this has got to be the place to hang out. Is there one restaurant, real quick before we go, that has more TVs than you've ever seen? Is there one Texas Roadhouse that has like 20 TVs or 30 TVs?
Well, I know you were just in the one in Texas, and they got quite a bit because they have some different rooms. But, at a minimum, we have 9, and then sometimes you may see a little bit more. So, but there's a couple out there that get pretty big. I think they break into the 20 mark. But, we just kind of focus in that bar area and just have that live energy. So if you want to just be off with the family and the little ones in the corner and just watch the line dancing, you're good with that. You want to sit around the bar and just drink that super cold one and watch some football, go for it.
Yeah. Texas Roadhouse, man, this is the place to be. Ed, we're happy for you.
Hey, before you go, Ed, I have to say, every handicapper, and we have some expert handicappers that have been involved in, handicapping from a variety of standpoints for decades, all right? Legendary guys. They all loved Penn State in this game. And everybody's offering up the theory, and I don't know that this was implied. I don't want to bury Tony here, but
you've been
it seemed like everybody said the same thing, that they hadn't played anybody. And then I was thinking, you know what? If you look at the first 2 rounds of a tennis tournament, like where Roger Federer was in his prime, he's playing a couple of guys, that there's no way they could beat him. But guess what? He's still Roger Federer. So when he plays Djokovic, he's going to be in there with a shot. And I don't know. That theory really was debunked there, that you could go into a big ball game like that and then take on a legitimate opponent after a soft schedule. They showed that they really were very, very good.
So what are you going to do for the Michigan State game with your daughter at Michigan State? What are you going to wear?
My left sock with my long boots will be a hint of green. That's about it. I'll send you a picture, but I'm going to be rocking my maize and blue overalls. And we'll be in the lot. So feel free to join us, Tony. Come on in. I'll have a ticket with your name on it if you want to join.
I will fly into Ann Arbor for that one, man. I'll tell you what, it's gonna be wild. I wish Michigan State were a little bit better, but regardless,
I agree.
Regardless, it's going to be great for the state, and it's wonderful. Great.
And too bad Nick might be out of the picture. I know that make suffer. The Alabama stores may suffer a little bit, but with Nick ranked number 6 now, that's not a bad spot.
How great was that to see him get so upset? How wonderful was that? How
It's all about the kids, Tony. That's
refreshing.
It's all about the kids.
Man. He was so upset. It was like, wow.
He went Woody Hayes on this kid, man. He stopped in front of a karate chop.
Gosh.
It's unbelievable. Ed, we love you, man. Thanks. And
we're
going to get Mike Mayo out to that luncheon when we put that together, because he's got to write a story about how incredible this chain of restaurants is. And as you said, under individual ownership and management, and yet it's all done in the same fashion. And that's what a lot of people love about it. You could drop in like Tony does all over the country, or be down here in Miramar, and you're going to get the same great food at tremendous prices. So thanks so much for your support on the show, and congratulations.
Thank you.
The new name of this segment is The Apology. Ed Garcia.
Go blue, baby. Go blue.
Thanks, Ed.
I
love that guy.
He's a great guy. Wow. It's nice when a guy's team that he roots for through thick and thin, and not a fair weather fan like these Yankee fans. No, and we're not putting you in a category, but ready to just commit suicide. Not like they're not going to be Yankee fans in the future, but as we said, I think it's an appropriate parallel. Meghan Markle complaining about being on TV holding a suitcase for $2,500 a week. Come on, Tony. A lot of people would love that job, no?
Yeah.
Give it to me. If I had legs like that, I mean, sure.
It's fine with me.
Now she's been objectified as a bimbo, and this is a woman that couldn't even stand being a princess, for God's sake. Nuts.
I don't know what to tell you. This world is so different now. And you're right. I remember, and I hate to keep the name of the segment's old school,
Yeah.
but when I was growing up and you were growing up, you were a fan. You loved your team thick and thin. You may have gotten upset when they lost, but you didn't stop being their fan. You didn't want to fire but it's so easy now. We're firing coaches left and right. College football, they don't care. Pardon me, if they have to pay $20 million or $30 million.
Well, that's another topic there, Tom.
That's just stupid. It's great. It's crazy,
How about this one? I don't mean to interrupt that train of thought there, but this really struck me along those lines. The Sean Miller guy is coaching at Xavier now. All right, this was a guy that was disgraced his program there with Arizona. And meanwhile, this is right out of the whole mega thing. Where his assistant coach did time in prison for what they did, and he's got another job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and like you were talking about with these head coaches. The best thing you could possibly do is fail as a head coach on either the college or the pro level, and get paid off like $1 zillion. Enough to live 10 lifetimes.
When Ed Orgeron is now speaking around the country.
Speaking,
part of his really,
Same.
he's quite an orator. He makes
I like Ed.
Yeah, me too. And I saw he was actually, he's helping Miami out as like kind of a.
He's been at Miami a lot.
Yeah, but anyway, he tells the story, and he tells it in every speech. How when they fired him, they said, sorry, we have to let you go, but we're going to give you $17 million to leave. He goes, where? When?
Where do I sign?
Come
You
on.
don't even have to do this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
No more talking to little Johnny Jones and his grandmother there while you're downing some meal that you can't even identify.
Yeah.
And going, ma'am, this is good.
Yeah. My goodness.
Crazy.
Gracious.
All right.
It is.
All right, we're gonna come back. A lot to talk about here. We had the baseball going. There's football, college football, all kinds of stuff. I don't know how big of a hockey fan you are, Tony, but
Love
that's
hockey.
underway.
In the Northeast.
There's been some interesting boxing going on. All kinds of great things happening in the world of sport. And you mentioned this last week, and it's true. And there used to be a debate about this, whether when you had spring training and all the other sports doing their championships and the NCAA tournament, or the fall is the best time, but I would have to say, as a television viewer, 71 years, or as long as I can remember, going back to black and white, I don't think I've seen more offerings of sensational sports activity on TV. This past weekend was maybe like the best ever.
Fabulous.
So
Incredible.
saturated. Whatever your pleasure was, you could find it somewhere, whether it was thrilling college football games, upsets, baseball in the playoffs in the postseason, NFL action. It was amazing. The beginning of hockey and now the onset of basketball. It's
And
just
you know
fantastic.
what's so cool now? We're cord cutters, so we have YouTube TV and so all of our none of our TVs are wired to the wall or anything in terms of. Like they got to be hooked up to cable and all that.
Yeah.
And I know now you can have the portable cable, but so on Saturday, because there were so many games going on at the same time, I had 3 TVs in my living room. All you got to do is find plugs for them. They're all hooked up to the internet. You're streaming on YouTube TV, and I've got this game and that game. I'm bound. I'm like a bob. I was telling a friend of mine, I'm a bobblehead. I'm just like all
This
over
is
the
an
place.
advancement, though, from when we started these segments,
Oh.
and you didn't have electricity in that Vermont place that you had,
Right.
which
Yeah,
was great. You were bouncing that signal off the antlers of a moose.
Oh, I know. I still have them. I still have the moose in case God forbid something happens.
I think we've been working with the moose here with Lubie in this cockamamie system that he is working there at his mom's place. All right, we're coming back with more with Tony Segreto, more old school. Also brought to you by Catholic Health Services, another fine organization. It's only associated, of course, as you would imagine, with the epitome of class. We'll tell you more about those guys and the great work that they do as well. In just a moment here on the Defo Show, it's Mike Lubie Lubitz. I'm Jeff DeForest, the great one in the Yankee cap, legendary broadcaster Tony Segreto. More old school in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:31. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
All right, one thing that I love about you, Tony, and we discovered this over time, although it took a while to kind of realize what the heck was really going on there. As distinguished as you are, and as many people as you deal with your various committees that you're on, Orange Ball, this, that, boards of trustees of universities, deep inside, lurks. I don't know that it's a sick degenerate, but there is a degenerate nature, and nobody loves college football. I believe next to women's softball, college football is really the most passionate sport that you're all about, Tony Segreto. Is that not correct?
I love it. Let's say we talk about being the intelligent degenerate. The one who doesn't say it out loud, but
those are mutually exclusive, my friend.
There
is no intelligent degenerate. If you're a degenerate, you've already shown a lack of intelligence or intellect.
Defo and Lubie love kicking it old school with the legendary Tony Segreto.
The degenerate SATs, though, would be saturated with even more complex math. Now it's sabermetrics and all of this other stuff, getting involved in trying to calculate the outcome of a sporting event.
I tell you, I've been so wrapped up in the playoffs that I haven't even, when that little segment came on there, I just realized I haven't even looked at numbers for this week's games. I haven't even looked.
I really haven't explored that too heavily, although I saw that UM was favored pretty heavily over Duke. Coming up. Duke, I think, just lost to North Carolina.
What was the spread on that?
Might be 8.5 in favor of the Hurricanes, which would be reluctant to lay, in any game that they're playing so far this year, because they did allow Virginia Tech to come back and cover the spread. So they were losers against the point spread last week. Another knock on the new and trying to get established Mario Cristobal era. All right, but we'll give him a pass on that. I'm sure you won't bring that up to the president next time you interview the guy. That hey, can you still keep Cristobal around? The fans are bitching that he didn't cover the spread last week. As he's sitting there ready to sign a deal to name the new stadium FanDuel Park down there in Coral Gables, he's gotten by all the permit restrictions and the politics and the red tape you would have to build a stadium there, which this, Tony, and you've been following that conversation forever. And, if UM had a football stadium on campus,
it's still not on campus.
That could never happen in the history of the planet.
It's still not on campus. It's still not on campus.
Every place is at least 20 minutes away. That's what I don't get.
Coral Gables, but they'll never do that there. Never.
Let's not forget they have a 10-year contract with Harvard.
Yes, and it's a very favorable You said it. It was you or Corbin said that UMAC, the execs, which you're one of them, was actually pissed at Ruiz because it's dude, you can say whatever you want, but we have a really good deal with.
Yeah, they have a great deal, and they sort of, when you talk to some of the people at UM, they sort of chuckle, because they have a great deal, and it's still not on campus. It still doesn't rectify the issue. Okay, it just doesn't. It is what it is. Miami's been able to survive all these years, and listen, start winning. It's not going to. Your stadium could be in West Palm Beach, and people would go.
The last 10 years they were at the Orange Bowl for 5 or 6 years. No one knew they were at the Orange Bowl. Still, the last game they lost to Virginia 50-0, and no one was there for the last game. It doesn't matter where they play.
Listen, in a perfect world, yes. I mean,
It's great.
for Jeff, where you went, where you
Yeah, we
went,
have seen
Lubie,
it.
and my daughter and son went. Yeah, it was, they rolled out of bed and they were on campus and it was fabulous. And that's
Yeah.
the way I think it should be. But Miami doesn't have the footprint for it. We don't have the land for it. It's not the way it is. Listen.
It's never
you're
happening in
thinking-
Coral Gables, though. You can't get a permit for a stop sign
No, you can't.
on a four-way intersection. I mean, that would take 10 years to approve.
How would you like to be a player at UCLA where nobody shows up? I mean, not one student shows up.
I'll give you a place where nobody shows up, man. I was watching this game, and you'll find this. I guess it goes along with the whole theory and premise we're operating under about degeneracy here. But in my personal bookmaking venture with my dear friend Francesco, he hands me FIU in their game against the University of Texas San Antonio, an online school originally coached by Larry Coker.
USTA is a pretty darn good team.
They're not a
Yeah. I mean, and so I'm getting 34 points in this game. And the coach there, who we haven't had on the show, and I want to say is his name McKenzie or something? McIntyre.
McIntyre.
This guy, when I saw his, and all these coaches schlubber a lot of positives and hyperbole. We're going to get this done, be a major force. When they first come on the scene. But Tony, I have honestly never seen a guy more enthusiastic than this guy, including like Jimmy Johnson and Howard Schnellenberger. I've never seen a guy give a more positive impression about what was going to happen there and how happy he was to have the job. And yet, I mean, they were 34-point dogs. And you talk about a crowd. I watch a lot of the early rounds of tennis tournaments on Tennis Channel because it's on at like 6 in the morning. And, they'll have some tournament from Stockholm, an indoor tournament. And there is nobody there to watch like Medvedev and Djokovic. And you're like, wow. I mean, no.
How's that possible?
There were two people, literally, at FIU. This was the saddest thing I have ever seen. There was no inclement weather. It wasn't raining.
Yeah.
It was a nice night. I mean, they built whatever. They have a
gorgeous
stadium there.
It's a gorgeous stadium.
Yeah.
That's nice. I've been there. They did.
I mean, you couldn't be in a worse situation in terms of lack of interest in a program than those guys were.
I know. Have you been to that stadium, Jeff?
Maybe in the distant past, but not recently.
It's beautiful. I mean,
it's nice. It only holds 19,000.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, it didn't need to hold 9. Honestly, there weren't 9 people in this ballpark, Tony. Now, I loved the game, and I watched it with great interest all the way through because if you put a point spread on a game and some money on it, even the worst game in college football, maybe on the slate this year, turns into just an instant, Green Bay, frozen tundra classic. It was great.
Right.
So the FIU hung on to only lose by 20 in the ball game, and I covered the spread very easily without even having any anxiety about it from like pretty much the opening moments on. Yeah. The only thing that could beat me was like twin pick sixes at the end, which is ugly.
Lubie, I have to share with you. So every once in a while now, more than ever, there'll be moments like at the weirdest times where I'll get a text from Defo here. Yeah. Like yesterday, he predicted the first.
Oh, we had the home run before it was hit.
Yeah,
right? We did.
Yeah, the demise of Cleveland's starter.
Savelli, he had nothing. You could see that.
He didn't even work up a sweat before Giancarlo just ripped it. He ripped it opposite field. I mean, they didn't even. It was over.
I want to look at these series of texts because you felt it coming.
Yeah,
and you know what? It wasn't just me though. It was like every Yankee fan knew that this guy is going. If he gets anything anywhere near the strike zone with this total lack of stuff that he had going,
it was like home run derby pitching.
Oh my God! I ordered 2 meatballs from Cafe Monterano just to resemble those pitches, and you thought if this guy throws a strike, the ball's going to be in the seats, and sure enough, like 1 second after I sent you this message here,
it's inevitable.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Inevitable. He goes, inevitable. And I go, well, we'll see. Boom. I told you.
Yeah. In-game betting, everybody would have cleaned up yesterday. I mean, I know they have in-game betting, and I'm thinking the next strike this guy throws, I don't know if he went to like 2-0 or anything on Stanton, but the next ball that's near the strike zone is in the seats. You could see that coming, man.
Yeah.
I think Terry Francona knew it, and you know what?
He did. He did.
That would have taken some serious balls to take the guy right out of the ball game after he gave up, the first 2 hitters. I mean, he was nowhere near the plate.
He almost did.
I think he thought about it,
Oh, yeah. Listen, he said, if you recall, what Darling said, that he talked to Francona, and Francona told all his pitchers, it's nothing personal. Don't look over your shoulder, but there's going to be someone warming up every inning. So it was just,
an unfortunate, compromising situation for these guys, which, they just didn't have enough talent to beat ultimately the New York Yankees in a best-of-5 series. A lot of people thought, it was compromising for the teams that sat out and had to bye in the first round. Yet that went 2-2, Tony, as we talked about earlier today. So I don't know if you can make that case. And it is baseball, and we do see Philadelphia is genuinely hot.
Yeah, they are.
And the Mets, who lost to San Diego, I mean, they had kind of, hit a little bit of a wall there at the end of the season.
You know what I thought was really cool yesterday was how, in fact, Costas mentioned it. It was a really peculiar time to start a game, 4:07. It was just odd. And
why wouldn't they have played that at 1:00? I guess.
I know. Maybe field preparation. I don't know. I don't know, because
probably TV money.
Maybe I don't know. But anyway, so you're thinking. So they're showing the crowd, right? So the seats weren't full, and Costas made mention of it. He goes, traffic and odd start. But by the 5th inning, that place was rocking. That place was full.
Oh, it was a good crowd, no question.
It was remarkable.
All these playoff crowds have been amazing.
Oh my Lord, the energy was like a college football game. The energy
tremendous.
Has been absolutely fantastic.
They couldn't be any more blasé. I was talking about this earlier. I picked this up, and I lived in California for a while, but I was in San Diego about a year ago, and literally, these people could care less about anything, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, like 90-year-old ladies are running around in wetsuits on the beach there and flying up like a flight of stairs, like you're climbing Mount Everest. I mean, enough, that I had, even with my 4 miles a day of walking, I had to stop and say, let me rest these legs a little bit. And they throw the surfboard in a van, but they don't necessarily get passionate about sports, as evidenced by the fact that, their football team and their basketball team left there.
Yeah.
For like a neighboring city, pretty much. I mean, it's far enough away, but the passion they had going in the crowd last night, that was
it was incredible.
Very much in contrast to San Diego.
It'll be rocking tonight in Houston. I'll tell you that.
That's going to be great.
That is good. with Verlander going and the dislike between the two teams, and it's going to be wild.
I'm hoping, too, that Carlos Beltran shows up there.
Yeah.
And has like a microphone.
Like a drum.
One of my favorite scenes there was when Altuve was coming home there, and he was, you could tell he was wearing a wire because, they tried to, take his shirt off when he hit, I think he did a walk-off. Yeah, and he quickly, zipped it to the top there like he was Frankie Pentangeli. He really did. It was great. All right, I have another thing I want to get into with you, Tony, but we have to tell people about Catholic Health Services. And, we talk about it here in, very, lofty platitudes, but it really is the truth. Not that we have to convince people that we're lying at other times, but, I mean, it's hard to emphasize. I don't even know that I can bring across how wonderful these people are if you're talking about any type of healthcare.
Let me ask people a question, and obviously we're not going to know their answer, but I'm going to ask you a question. When your loved one is in the hospital, whether it's in the hospital, regular hospital, or a rehab facility, how comfortable are you when you go to bed at night? How comfortable?
Not at all. I mean, you're hoping that you can get some contact in the morning, right? And you're sleepless and
you're hoping maybe if you wake up in the middle of the night, if you call if the nurse's desk, someone will pick up and they'll tell you how things are going. Yeah. That's how you, and if not, you're tossing and turning, and you can't shut your brain off. That doesn't happen. You talk to people and patients and the families of patients that go to Catholic Health Services. They will tell you flat out when they leave that facility, the first time they exhale like they haven't exhaled in months or years, however long it's been. They sleep better than they've ever slept because they know their loved one is not just being taken care of, but God forbid something happens, they're going to hear about it immediately. And they're also going to hear about how good they're doing, or how, what they might need and what to expect. And that's what Catholic Health Services excels in beyond everything else. Not only are they exceptional at rehab and making sure that the patient feels comfortable and making sure the patient knows what to expect and what kind of rehab they're going to do, from physical therapy to occupational therapy, because there are two different types, and occupational is vital for them living every day, getting a can out of the cupboard, being able to go to the bathroom, put their socks on, get in the bed. All of those things are part of occupational therapy. Now, they're not only great there, but they're great at involving the family, making sure the family feels comfortable, making sure the family knows that they're available 24/7 to have a conversation, making sure the family understands that, God forbid, we will be in touch with you if anything happens that we feel you need to know about. But we're still going to be in touch with you to give you updates at least 3 times a day to make you feel comfortable.
Really, 3 times a day? See, that's the thing, is my grandmother got sick. God rest her soul. Twice.
Well, I don't know if they say 3 times a day, but I know what.
Well, I know what
Defo
was
it's constant.
I believe
it
it.
also.
I went every day because of the way our schedule is, and my family's all over the place. I was there every day. The first time my grandma, then she got better, and then before she passed, I was there every day. So I got the updates. But even then, being there, it was sort of a pain in the ass. My family, if I wasn't there, would never have known what was going on. So the fact that the way Defo was constantly in contact with them, I thought was very interesting, because I was like, wow, I never got that. That's freaking amazing. Like, most healthcare places don't do that. And I'm not slaving it. They're just busy. They have a lot going on.
It was night and day.
Out of their way.
And that's the way it should be. We talk about this all the time. And this is where Catholic Health Services really excels. When a loved one, listen, we'll use Defo and your grandmother as an example. When they're not well, it impacts the entire family. When they're in a facility, it impacts the entire family. So when that happens and you bring your loved one, your mom, dad, whatever, to Catholic Health Services, they involve the family. This isn't just about the patient. Yes, the patient's the focal point. Yes, we want to get the patient up and around faster than they ever could have imagined. But in order for that to happen, the entire family needs to be involved. And that's what makes them special. Trust me, folks. Trust Defo. Listen to us when we tell you. This is not about shilling for anybody. This is not a holler for dollar. This is about compassion and from our heart. If you want a difference maker and you're looking for rehab and you're looking for facility, Catholic Health Services.
It's absolutely great. My brother, nobody better at writing a scathing, insulting, intimidating, threatening letter than my brother. Okay, he is tremendous at this, and he was dashing off like a dozen emails a day to various people at what is a very well-respected hospital, Memorial West. I mean, has a decent reputation, but. Wow, I mean, you don't want to feel like Tony, and we don't want to, over emphasize this, but you don't want to feel like you have one call from jail, and then the guy doesn't answer.
That's it. You're done.
Or like you're just imposing on this poor doctor's time. If you ask him a question like, "Is my mother still alive?" and it takes him 2 days to get back to you on that. So I mean, it literally was a complete 180. In every aspect of my mother's health care, as she was unfortunately placed on hospice care, but even that was, I mean, just like you couldn't execute it any better than and deliver any better on what were a realistic promise from Catholic Health Services. So a great company, and we're proud to represent them here.
So I'm honored. I'm honored to not just Catholic Health. Honored to have both Catholic Health Services in Texas.
You're right.
Well, Eddie G, man, he's great.
Honored, just fantastic.
All right, we're coming back with more. I want to get into this owners meeting. A little squabble going on in the NFL, Tony, and you are socializing those kind of upper echelon places,
100%.
so you might have some insight into this that we can share. Back in a moment with more Old School with Tony Segreto. Now that 8:50.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Does your
Oh,
bookie
yeah.
have an app though? Everything's on an app.
No,
but
he only deals with me.
wow, I mean, what did you do for this man? Did you break
Yeah, I
him
was
out of
gonna
prison?
say, what does that mean?
What did you do?
The odds
Did
you
you
get
get
with
him off
that.
some rap? He was
I'm
with
like,
El Chapo. He was about to do life, and you called an attorney on his behalf.
I'm
What
like
happened here?
I'm like Costanza with the password for his bank account in that episode. I'm going to go to my grave with that.
Exactly.
Wow, I mean, you do get very generous odds. I would
I
have to
do.
say.
I
No,
do.
I mean that would be all anybody that was a sick degenerate like we are could ever dream about is getting better prices than anybody else. Various ball games. So we'd still find a way. We'd still find a way to lose.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
All right, so I'm looking at page 6 in the New York Post. It's kind of a society page. Did we lose Tony there?
Yeah, so
Mike
you didn't
Libby
see my
Limits?
message. I wasn't sure if you saw my message or not. He froze.
Okay.
And before break notice, he made an interesting face.
Yeah.
And then it stayed there. I'm like, oh, that's a weird face that he's making for an elongated.
It wasn't a Mike Mayo face when he tastes something that he
It was
doesn't
like
like.
a goofy smile, but I'm like, that's a weird. And then I realized,
Yeah.
oh, he's frozen.
Oh, okay. All right.
He had no internet. So we lost him. Hopefully he'll come
We'll
back.
welcome him back when he comes back because he was on a roll today, Tony Segreto.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
enjoyable conversation here. Personally knew Costas. Costas singled him out there when he saw him at the stadium. Said Segreto, and and that was interesting to see a guy of that distinction be lambasted. Most people were celebrating the fact that Costas was back calling baseball when he started doing games again on the MLB network.
Yeah.
And and I don't know. I mean, far be it from me to say that Mike Francesa was right, because he made a living being traditionally and just almost criminally wrong about virtually everything that he predicted or said. And a large portion of it turned out to be complete bullshit. But when he was the guy that was calling out Bob Costas and saying, Bobby, you gotta lay out a little bit. I mean, we don't need to know every historic reference that you might have in your library of memories about Major League Baseball after every pitch. The other guy that gets slammed a lot as an analyst is John Smoltz. At least he draws high praise in a lot of places. John Smoltz. But my man Phil Mushnick is constantly pointing out that every pitch that's delivered in between that time and the next pitch does not necessarily mandate that you have like a 20-minute soliloquy as you await the next delivery, talking about how important that pitch was that you just saw. I mean, it's the first inning of a ball game. A guy misses with a curveball. I mean, do you really need to dissect that, Lubie? But Smoltz gets absolutely ridiculed for that by Phil Mushnick. And I did notice it yesterday because I was wondering, who is this guy? He was doing a thing like, who was the announcer that was working on the Marlin games that, just was on and on. It was a former, ball player that was recently with the broadcast. Oh, look at this. Tony making his way back into the picture here.
I have no idea
That's
what
great.
happened. Sorry, guys.
Stuff happens. It's okay. It's the age of the internet. Yes.
You know what? You put the moose out to pasture way too early.
You brought him back. Moose power. What were you? I wanted to ask you this. I got off on a tangent here about this whole color analyst thing, but forget that. Let's just move on here with Tony because what were you not invited? I read page 6 in the Post all the time, and I saw a list of names, a very dignified list of people attended the Bob Kraft wedding. The Bob Kraft wedding.
Yeah,
were you not involved?
I opted out. Yeah.
Okay.
I think my invitation somehow got lost in the mail. Something like that.
What did you think about, this is almost like one of those Dana White UFC press conferences where they have the phony hatred, the two guys who are, happy they're finally making $1 million paychecks and that White's going to let go of some of that cash that he's making at their expense, physically and mentally. Where Kraft was told by Jerry Jones, don't fuck with me.
Yeah. Let me
What do you
tell
make
you
of that?
something.
What do you make of that? And
All
what do you
right,
make
all right, all right,
of Jim
all right.
Irsay writing? I mean, Dan Snyder.
You have to you have to understand. Every one of these owners carries a big stick.
Well, we
Every
know that.
one of them. Who carries the biggest one? They want to be able. Listen, for 2 straight years, I presented with Nat Moore to all the owners a pitch to bring the Super Bowl to South Florida.
All right.
All right. So you're in this room with 32 billionaires.
They were all there.
Yeah. Right.
And you're there with Nat
And-
Moore. Were you
and-
wearing a suit? I mean, no, you were always well dressed. I mean,
Yeah, we were wearing both
Okay.
wearing suits, and we make a. You walk in, and the commissioner says, "Hey, Tony. Hey, Nat. How are you? We chat for a minute, and then he goes, "You're on the clock." And you got the clock in front of you. You have 15 minutes to make your
my God,
presentation.
clock.
So
on a clock,
Yeah. You're
like
on
it was a
clock.
quiz show. Get out of here.
Oh yeah, no. So you're on a clock, and I forget what year I did it, but so Nat started, and then I came and I felt, I did a whole soliloquy type thing,
Yeah.
and I'm going. I go, I know you guys love South Florida. I know
Who
you
wouldn't?
guys. I know you guys have homes here, and I walk right in front of Kraft, and I go. In fact, I have seen you walk in the streets of Worth Avenue. I've seen
Uh-oh.
you, and
Oh,
he's
wow, that was
and
dope.
he's
Uh-oh, he might have
and-
got scared.
yeah, and he's laughing, right? He's laughing.
Yeah.
But you could tell that there was respect because they had to have it, but they all got their sticks underneath the desk, and they're going to wield those big sticks. And who's got the biggest one? And right now, Jerry feels he's got the biggest one because he's got the biggest mouth, and
probably the biggest ego. I mean,
probably the biggest
yeah.
ego. Yeah, that go along. And it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. I think it happens more than we know. I think now it just leaked. Honest to gosh, I think
most
I think
owners
it
are
happens.
nondescript though in the league. You don't
Well,
even know who they are.
a lot of them are, but then you have a guy like Kraft, and you have a guy like Jones, and you have a guy like Snyder, and you guys have Ross. I'll tell you, that was the one thing about Wayne. Wayne had such amazing power in that room because he didn't take anybody's shit. Pardon my French. He was very low key. He walked around very confident and was sort of like, okay, you guys do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. Okay. And I remember him.
Maybe it didn't hurt that he owned Waste Management at one time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I remember him
Out of Chicago.
standing up in front of all the owners and going, listen, this game belongs here. I will give you guys whatever he was giving them, yachts or something for the week you're here. And it was a no-brainer. They voted Miami.
Did you offer yachts
Yes,
with
you're part of it.
Nat Moore?
Yeah. Huh? Did
you
order
offer yachts?
No, I ordered a lifelong subscription to Costco.
No, but I mean, were you offering these guys yachts as part of their presentation?
No. We had a lot of offers.
Naked women. I mean, what else did you have
Can
to
I tell you
grease these guys
something?
with? Yeah.
Preparing. One of the most exciting, eye-opening things I think I've ever done is watching the preparation for a Super Bowl bid and watching the clock go down. Not so much the presentation where you have the 15 minutes, because that's just the way it is. But the jockeying beforehand, how the league will come in and say to you, listen, we're going to need more suites. We can't tell you how many or who has more, but you're going to need more suites. And you've got GMs and CEOs of your teams calling these big time people who own these suites, going, man, we need these suites.
Yeah.
And they're bartering, trying to get these suites back and forth. It's a wild,
a lot of bullshit
time.
is what you're saying.
It is, it's
everybody's getting greased.
It doesn't surprise me that Jones and Kraft went at it. I'm surprised that we haven't heard before. We'll and Kraft there. You know what?
Did he bring up the Asian spa, Jerry?
No.
You think? You don't think he mentioned it? Here's Jim Irsay was
may
caught with
have.
like drugs, cash, machine guns while driving impaired. And Dan Snyder saying, "Hey, I got dirt on all of you guys," and I would imagine. I mean, as I was saying earlier this morning, when Chris Hansen threatened to write a book about what really went on The Bachelorette all of those years,
yeah,
they immediately gave him the money to shut the fuck up.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
With a sworn statement, he would never speak again of the series, and you've never seen this guy anywhere, right? He's in Tahiti somewhere.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Hey, now listen, this is blasphemy, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there wondering, ever since Brady left, Belichick is an average coach.
I don't know about that. I thought
For now, with
he-
Bailey
he-
Zappi,
I think he's doing a great job this year. I think he's a
I think
candidate
this
for Coach
year
of the
he's
Year.
doing-
He
I
had
think
garbage. He's
better.
3-3.
I
They're
think
not
this
great.
year he's. I don't think he's a great. I don't think he's a
They're
great
not great.
coach this year, but I
He's
think
got this Zappy guy as like a viable quarterback. And Mac Jones. A lot of people debated whether he was all that great, but he brings in some schlep that he drafted,
I'm just
and
saying.
the kid's good.
No, he's not elite. I mean, that's true. They're not.
I mean, I just don't know if he's.
The team's not that great, but I think Belichick's doing well with what he's got.
I think he does. I think he's okay. I think with Brady, he was.
But Brady, I mean, what stupidity was driving
I'm
the
over-
Dolphins,
I'm
to
over
want
that,
Brady this year? They wanted to have this
my
guy
God.
be their quarterback.
Does he look done or not?
He's starting to look that way, yeah.
And when you have this tirade,
But we said that 10 years ago.
well, here's the thing though: when you have the tirade that we've never seen before on the sideline with his
Yeah.
offensive line, when you see. Would 10 years ago he have gone to Bob Kraft's wedding on the Saturday before a game? Would he have done that
Without Giselle on top of that?
No
Yeah.
way.
Would he have done that? No.
No,
Would
no
he
way.
take two? Would he take 2 weeks off of training camp? No.
Women weaken legs. We know this to be like from the Rocky movie. And
regardless of
he
the
looks weak
reason-
here.
Regardless of the reason,
Yeah.
this is un-Brady like.
Well, and the other thing that happens too when you see a guy start to lose it is where he would automatically have completed a pass to Gronk for the 2-point conversion after they were staggering through this whole game against the lowly Pittsburgh Steelers, who are, blindly searching for a new identity after Big Ben retired, and are in a season where you're thinking that they're not going to do anything this year. In fact, they're like 7-8 point dogs to the Miami Dolphins coming into this game, even though the Finns have lost 3 in a row and they're coming off beating the Buccaneers. But you're looking at what appears to be a disaster.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where you look in the NFL and it really does. It stands for not for long. But Brady normally would have made that 2-point conversion pass.
Yeah.
And they
He's
would have
missing-
found a way to win the game, even in the fading years of his greatness. But, and Big Ben was popping off. Roethlisberger was saying on some podcast that he thought Brady was disconnected from this thing.
Yeah, and listen, and this is not meant to be a disrespect of his greatness, because he's going to go down as the greatest who ever played with all the Super Bowl rings, and I never want that to be misunderstood.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but
He's 25 years old.
But
Do you know that?
I'm saying that he's doing things he never would have done before in terms of taking the time off. He's not looking as sharp as he once did. He looks tired.
Yep.
When you see him,
He
looks tired.
Yeah.
And just doesn't look the Brady that
He needs to go to
before.
Texas Roadhouse and have a steak.
Exactly.
That's what he needs. And a big pan of potatoes.
Yeah.
Chug a couple of beers.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Belichick wins. He was not at the Kraft wedding. Tony Segreto wins. He was not at the Kraft wedding. Brady loses.
He was at the Kraft
At
wedding.
the Kraft wedding. There's a common denominator there. I wonder if Meghan Markle was there as well. That would have been, that looked like a spectacular. And you know what? I'll give Kraft credit because he stayed within the parameters of the Defo formula for dating younger women, which is, you take your age, divide it in half, and then you add 7 years. She's 47. We'll give him 80. And
Ed Orgeron also applies to that.
Oh, yeah? He's got like a 20-year-old? What the? Well, he's got 15 million. Why not?
17 million.
17 million is not a bad number. Well, he made some money in the past. I doubt he was starving.
A lot
It
of
didn't
money.
look like
He's
that.
done fine for
Anyway, yeah. All right, Tony, always a pleasure, man. We got to run. We had a good time today. That was great. Thanks to Ed Garcia for joining us. Catholic Health Services for supporting the program. Where are you off to? What are you doing next?
I've actually have to fly into town for a day, which will be this Thursday.
What dignitary are you interviewing on your
Board
trip
of
into town?
Board of Trustees
Nice.
Of what?
of Miami.
Broward County Jail?
University of Miami Board of Trustees. I'm
Ooh.
literally flying in and flying out, and then I'll be back at some
Are you a
point.
vocal board member, or do you just kind of kick back like
Well,
Lubie
no,
and I
I'm not on the board. I'm interviewing for the oral history.
Oh, interviewing
project
the
that
people.
I'm doing.
Oh,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
good. Okay.
Yeah. But most of these guys and women I have known for gosh, half my life. The the Ed Williamsons of the world. These great people. Amazing
Williamson
people.
Cadillac, man. I mean,
Yeah,
prominent supporters, as is as our good friends at Hialeah Park, Big U.
Yeah, I love Hialeah. You were talking about them, and just real quick, John Brunetti was a dear friend.
I like John.
What he's done, what they did, the Brunetti family, they're always supporters of everyone in the community. They support me, anything I do, I can call them and count on it. Frankie Fiore, just great people. And you know what? Listen, even if you're not a gambler, if you just want to go have a nice afternoon or an evening out, just to walk around the grounds and see the storied history of Hialeah and kind of get nostalgic and kind of get that feeling of getting dressed up, you and your loved one, just for a night. It's a great place to be. It really is.
Were you ever like me, found talking to one of the stray flamingos?
No, but I've had this.
How could I have left out the two?
But I've had the stray flamingos talk to me. There's the problem.
like the statue of a flamingo I'm talking to out there. I mean, I've been in all kinds of states of mind there, Tony.
All I know is with all of these great people that listen to us, we're so grateful for all of you that watch or listen to us every Thursday, and certainly during the week with Defo and Lubie and with Mike Mayo and everybody that they have on. If anybody out there is in the world of bourbon that can help me in Vermont here get a good bourbon, let me know, would you please?
All right. Mayo would know. I mean, he knows.
This is a state-run liquor. Okay, so you're getting all the rudimentary stuff. All the.
Don't you have a still outside there, Tony? Is that common in Vermont, even though it's a hillbilly habit?
It is.
Rural area.
I have a still. But it's not it's not the really good.
Should be drinking some moonshine there, Tony. Moonshine.
Come on, the South. We love you, Tony. We'll talk to you.
I got my geography mixed up.
Yeah,
all right, Tony Segreto, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be out live. Even Keel Fish Shack. Catch us later on today. South Florida Live. Mike Mayo's very popular show, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, and Mike will be eating a variety of, just culinary delicacies that we always get there at the Even Keel Fish Shack. Brad's a great guy, and they do a tremendous job there. So that's A1A and Commercial Boulevard. If you want to come out, say hello. You think Sony shows up today? I'm hoping he does.
I don't know. He was there Monday, which was great.
Came out Monday, man. But I think he lives in the area, doesn't he? He lives right by the beach. Right. Yeah, so it's not that big of a schlep for him. All right, so we'll have that for you at 12 o'clock today with the Gambling Gourmet, Mike Mayo, and the Even Keel Fish Shack, which a great place, man. That fish and chips thing they had last week, I wouldn't mind if they brought that out again.
It's funny. I was like, I'd love to have that again. That was really good.
Now, it's not common when we go to these restaurant live shows that they, repeat the same things.
They try to bring new
even
stuff.
though, they do feature certain items more prominently than others in certain places that we go. But wow, I could go for another one of those. I really could.
That was really good. So if you're watching Mayo, when you do your order, when you order the entire menu, which I think is the funniest thing, he sits there with the owner for like.
It's great, man. Yeah, he goes, we need 2 of these, we need 4 of these. Let's see, Defo, he doesn't eat that, so why don't you get him one of these?
Put that in your order.
Fries, bring some right away.
Yeah, he's great.
He's amazing.
They're like, yes, Mr. Mayo. Yes. I'm like, Mr. Mayo.
Oh my God, man. You would think Judge Judy just walked into the place, man. I was about to handle your lawsuit.
So funny, and we got to go, but I've seen Frankie with some really big people. He was on freaking 2 different TV shows, and he's always cool, calm, collected. Frank Tallarico. Yeah. When he turned Mayo, and I was actually off, and he's like, but this guy, and his face was like white, carries a lot of weight.
It was like John Gotti, man. Yeah, showed up there and said, you know what, you're not treating our people right.
Mayo was like, I love the place. And Frankie was like, oh, thank God.
My God. And then Mayo was eating fistfuls of coconut shrimp, like a fistful, tail and all. He didn't even take the tail out, this cat.
These people only saw the crap we see with this guy. Eating fucking Skyline. Frozen.
And then he's writing about, like I say, it was a bit pretentious when he showed up. Our reservation was for 6:16, but we weren't seated till 6:17. Whoa, man, I'm going out of my mind here with anxiety. All right, we're going to see you at 12 o'clock from the Even Keel Fish Shack. Come on out, say hello, have a cocktail, and we'll have some fun. And thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Tony, Catholic Health Services, Texas Roadhouse, and Ed Garcia. Pleasure being with you. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
Oh, and don't forget about Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. Great spot. It's 9/11.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.